Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and call to order the Sacramento Regional Transit District meeting for, let's see, what is the date today? June 12th, 2017. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish a quorum?
Director Budge? Here. Director Hanson? Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hume?
Here.
Director Jennings?
Here.
Director Kennedy?
Here.
Director Miller is marked as being absent. Director Natoli?
Here.
Director Chenier? Director Cerna? Chair Moran.
Here.
With that, we have a quorum at 95 votes.
Thank you.
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, June 14th at 6 p.m. and replayed on June 15th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item, please.
Public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, I do have a couple of requests to speak. Jeffrey Tartagia. Jeffrey, good evening. After Jeffrey is Mike Barnbaum, and then Sarah Kerber. Jeffrey.
Chairman of the board and to the board. I first want to express, and I will say to Henry, thank the drivers, because for this planned shuttle service, they did more than yeoman's work. There was a lot of confusion on Saturday, and there was a lot of things that RT management and staff can do way better, to which I respectfully talk about again, accessibility now, as well as communication, as well as planning. Because I will tell you, as using the shuttle system, bus shuttle, that it was not easy for accessibility in various places because the way it was laid out. But your drivers, again, made the effort for those people that were on the phone trying to find out what to do and understand what was going on, because the signs didn't clue you in of what to do, and trying to look on the website to figure out what it meant still was unclear. And this time you had no bus shuttle service that people could find. It may have been there, but people on the stations could not find the shuttle to figure out what to do. Needs better maps. Access, yes, definitely had issues due there, but at the same time I also had a driver, when I realized the shuttle was absent on Saturday, driver for the 51 took me to Sac Valley Station. So I had that, and I appreciate and thank that. That was 2811 was the driver at about 4:42 on Saturday. Got it. I'm also going to turn around and say, board, you got some heavy decisions, and Steve, you disappeared again to say, here we are with one single board meeting, 25 items, unintentional consequences. I've got an 8:30 meeting to hearing of the legislator tomorrow and the next day, dealing with single payer. And the reason I'm wearing this shirt is this is for the disability advocacy at Cesar Chavez Park tomorrow, where there's going to be a tribute to a couple of disability people that have passed away. Steve, you only met Francis once, but I hope that before the end of the year that you city people decide that some better access and some better understanding of paratransit becomes relevant. I really think the city needs to come up with more dollars in, because I think the streetcar thing is the wrong thing, and I think that will kill Measure U and Measure B money as you push this forward with the lack of public input when they've already said no twice.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey. Mike, and after Mike is Sarah Kerber.
Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the board, audience, and staff. Mike Barnbaum of Ride Downtown 916. Just a couple of upcoming things on the meeting calendar in case they were not mentioned or addressed prior to this evening. There will be a press conference on Thursday, 9:30 in the morning at Rayleigh Field for the official launch of the Connect card. Yes, the Connect card finally gets launched, and they had reported through social media that 2,056 folks had participated during the soft launch. So that is a big thing coming this Thursday. Next week on Wednesday, at 10 o'clock in the BART boardroom in downtown Oakland is the meeting of the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority. I received a communication from them today about the upcoming agenda. And there are some things that have been highlighted I think would be of interest to this board and the public. The board is going to discuss the Pearl Harbor Day 2016 incident that occurred with Capital Corridor Train 527 regarding the investigation and subsequent actions. They will also discuss a updated timetable that went in effect on May 22nd, impacting connecting buses only. And following the adjournment of the meeting, the Vision Plan Ad Hoc Committee will convene a workshop on the Northern California Mega Regional Rail Governance. So there's going to be some important highlights of that if you can make it in person next Wednesday at 10 a.m. in the BART boardroom in downtown Oakland. Speaking of timetable changes, we'll go over a lot of stuff later in the agenda under item 25, but just wanted to point out and highlight to you in closing this 3-minute segment, there is work in progress of a pending major change to the San Joaquin timetable. If it is aggressively done and they get all their capital projects done as they hope, they're hoping to make the major timetable change with the national timetable change October 2nd. If not, it looks like, as the report is indicated in your board packet, that it would be in January. We'll go over more of the details about what happened at that board, though, in Fresno when you get to that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Sarah? Good evening, Sarah.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Sarah Kerber. I'm a member of the Sacramento Transit Riders Union. There are a lot more people here than usual, so I'm a little bit nervous. I have an item tonight to discuss to you. I gave you a handout that you should have in front of you with some pictures of a bus stop. The photos show an existing bus stop on 47th Avenue and 47th Street in Supervisor Kennedy's district. This stop is on the 6-8 bus line outbound towards Florin. It's stop number 2682. The stop's located near large to medium-sized apartment complexes, a school, and a prominent church. The 68 line is the only point of access for the RT system for this neighborhood. The stop is extremely dangerous, as you can see in the photos. The 47th Avenue is a major thoroughfare and a feeder to the freeway. Cars fly along at 6 miles an hour. There's no sidewalk at this particular section. There's various garbage and uneven surfaces along the path to this stop. Just standing on the side of the road to take the photo, I felt very unsafe, let alone waiting half an hour for a bus to come and pick me up at this particular station. For users of mobility devices, the stop is completely inaccessible, and the stop requires the bus driver to deploy passengers directly onto the street or into an unsafe stop, and hazardous undeveloped ditch created for drainage and water runoff. We're sure that you can see the serious safety issues that exist at the stop, and there's absolutely no aesthetic quality of the stop to make anyone choose to ride anywhere from it unless they absolutely have to. We request that the staff conduct an audit of bus stops throughout the system and provide the board and the public with a list of stops that contain similar accessibility and safety problems so that the board and the public can begin to work on solutions to make the bus stops safer and more accessible for all riders throughout the system. We also urge staff to take such safety and accessibility concerns into consideration throughout their route optimization project over the next several years.
Great. Thanks, Sarah, and thanks for bringing that to our attention. Okay, that concludes business from the floor.
Next item is the consent calendar, items 1 through 19, noting that item 19 has been pulled from the agenda, and I believe you have speaker cards on items 7 and 12.
So I will, unless there are other requests to speak or comment on items from the board, 1 through 6, 8 through 11, and 13 through 18, motion is in order there.
I have a question on 11, so
Okay.
keep that off if you would, too.
Okay, so 1 through 6, 8 through 10, and 13 through 18.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, moved by Director Budge, seconded by Director Hansen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 95 votes.
Okay, first consent item pulled.
I have an item 7, resolution approving the interagency and cost reimbursement agreement for the downtown riverfront streetcar project, and Ed Schofield and Neil Nance are both here to answer questions, if any.
Okay, Jeffrey.
Yes. It seems to me a little premature, board, to have this item here when you have not approved the, should we say, item 22, whether it's going A or B. But hopefully you have in there a contingency that addresses that in this resolution, or am I missing in the resolution that this agreement, if the streetcar were not to be funded, would this be something that is contingent or based upon?
Okay, can we get an answer for Jeffrey on that?
Sure, members of the board. Yes, that item is a reimbursement to RT for any design or construction work that we do. The city is providing upfront funds to support our efforts in that in this matter.
Thanks. Okay, great. Okay, very good. So with that, I will move item 7 on consent.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Director Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 95 votes.
Okay.
Item number 12,
Actually, let's do
Oop.
11.
just
Director
make
Natoli had a comment. So, Director Hansen?
Oh, I just wanted to thank, I know Tiffany Fink is here somewhere. I don't see her. Oh, there you are, hiding back there behind Ryan Moore. We approved the paratransit agreement tonight, and it's a big step towards collaboration. I just wanted to thank Tiffany for their work, and for Henry and his team for collaborating with paratransit on the new agreement.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Steve. So, so item 11, please.
item number 11, delegate authority to the general manager CEO to execute work order number 1 to the contract for general engineering support services 2017 with Mark Thomas and Company, Inc. for design services to relocation traction power substation A1 and A055RC. Craig Norman, I believe, is here, and also Neil Nance to
Okay.
answer your question.
Director Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess the question I have is that, was this something that could have been reasonably foreseen? I mean, this traction power station and signal delay control cabinet hasn't been in there all that long, and this is, estimated $4 to $5 million expenditure to move that. And obviously, SMUD, being the holder of the easement, has the ability to terminate that, and is, I guess, offered to contribute a small amount to the actual relocation. We're going to spend everything that SMUD's offered, plus just on the consulting contract that's embodied in this support services that we're going through. And so I guess I'm curious is that why have we done different in locating this initially, because this is a big chunk. And then my second part of the question is relates to an item that's later on the agenda. Could the Prop 1A funds be used for because you've identified another source of the congestion relief monies that apparently we're seeking from the commission, so maybe that's the source. But those are pretty flexible dollars, if I recall correctly, too. So I'd like some explanation behind the dollars that are being used and whether we could have reasonably foreseen this activity that, less than 10 years later, we're having to relocate this entirety of this package.
To answer your question, first of all, about whether this could have been foreseen, originally, when they put the substation there, it was possible that during the rail yards improvement that it would be relocated based on how the final configuration was. And originally, the property was owned by UPRR. Recently, SMUD procured that property, and they are designing a new substation there, which we did not ever anticipate. And part of the easement agreement is that SMUD, as a property owner, has the ability to terminate that easement and then reestablish another easement with us that's a perpetual easement. So it was never in our plan that first of all, that UPRR would sell the property, and secondly, that SMUD would purchase it for a new substation and require us to move it for that new substation.
So we thought the rail yard, it was pretty certain that the railroad was going to own this. It wasn't contemplated as a part of either rail yard development or adjacent development that this might, I mean, again, we
Not to our knowledge at that point.
If I could just correct Craig on that point, it was actually contemplated that UP would be transferring the property to, at that point, I believe it was Millennia, was going to be the rail yards developer in 2005.
Okay.
And that it might be developed, not envisioned as a substation, but envisioned as part of the overall rail yards development. Unfortunately, we don't have the negotiation history of how the $250,000 limitation on the relocation contribution was added to the easement agreement.
Yeah, it just seems to me that's a lot to bear for this district, ever how we find a way to fund it. That's, that installation's what? It's not even 10 years old, is it?
It was installed in 2005, so.
That's what's in the easement was accepted.
Well,
we didn't do all that construction downtown.
The final, right? Yeah, it's a little over 10 years old.
I mean, okay, so let me then, I appreciate the explanation. So the funding is being sought. Could that, from the traffic congestion relief program, could that be used for other things in the system?
I'll answer that one, David.
Sure. Or is it just solely for this particular?
I mean, we would have to bring it to the CTC staff and discuss with them and run it past them to see if we can utilize it for some other purposes. So there might be some flexibility there.
And for what? I mean, what sort of limitations is on that money relative to
Well, let me
CRP?
Let me consult with my staff real quick. So.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If the funds are not allocated in June, we're not going to be able to get an allocation.
Well, if the funds are not allocated by the June CTC meeting, which is coming up in about 2 or 3 weeks, then we're not going to be able to get an allocation on this money.
Okay, so what other eligibility, though, for the money? I understood that. That was in the staff report, that there's a deadline, but those monies, if you go through their process and apply for them and so forth, can be used for what other things within the system? Are they just for capital or for moving things or what?
Well, the restrictions on that money would only be for things that are on the south phase, on the south line phase. So it would have to be something that's related to that.
And that's all been closed out on the south line phase? Is that?
Blue line.
Yeah, the blue line. Yeah, the blue line, basically.
Could the 1A money be used for this?
The Prop 1A money has to be related to connectivity to the bullet train, but also it can be used for rail improvements, rolling stock, upgrades and other type of things per the language in the state law.
Yeah, I saw that. So,
but in order to find out if it could be used definitively, we would have to work with CTC staff and talk to them and just see if they see if they're in agreement with it.
You're not sure. You don't know for sure certain.
We would really have to talk to their staff to get a more definitive answer.
Okay. Last question I have then. So, when did it come to our attention that there was a new property owner? Do you, as having a lease there, are you notified at some point that property's going to transfer, or is it all after the fact? Do you get any heads up so that you could weigh in? And again, I know Union Pacific doesn't have a stellar record about dialoguing with folks, but nonetheless, I will give them some credit if in fact they did that. Did they notice us in advance that they were in discussions with SMUD?
To my knowledge, we were not aware of that. And originally, when SMUD had decided to build a substation there, they began talking with us about possible locations to move our substation. And originally, they said it was part of their budget. But then on December 6th of last year, just end of 2016, they showed us the easement and the clause in the easement that they intended to exercise. So we just found out about this at the end of December, at which point they said they were going to give us a letter stating that they would terminate the easement, and they finally gave us that letter in May.
Henry, have you had any discussions with the general manager of SMUD about this? I mean, again, that maybe meet their obligations under the law. This is a big expense, and again, ever how we fund it, I still find that a little bit odd that their GM wouldn't talk with the GM over here when they've made some decisions in-house. That's where they're going to put their substation. I get all that, but we're going to basically bear the expense with a minimum contribution of about 5% by the SMUD district.
This topic has been discussed for a while, and Tim Spangler and I talked about this multiple times to say how we can, what is our right and what is smart right. So eventually, based on the legal department's determination, it's something we probably still needed to comply.
Okay, well, we're not getting the best end of this deal, I can tell you that much right now. So
That's my plan, to talk to Smart GM. I had a conversation with him before, but now, we try to wait until the legal departments, both, agencies, talk through first. Then he and I can further talk about this.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thanks, Don. So with that, entertain a motion on item 11.
Move approval.
Moved by Director Budge. I'll go ahead and second that. So moved and seconded. Maybe let's try a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, you get that, Cindy?
Yes, sir.
Any abstain? Okay.
With that, the motion passes at 81 votes.
Okay, and so what I'm going to do before we get to item 11 on consent is just circle back on business from the floor. Somebody with some scheduling conflicts is here briefly, so could I have, so I'll open business from the floor, and Daryl Steinberg, is Daryl available?
He did a card.
He's got his card here.
I have a card.
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor Morin and Chair of the Board, members of the Board. I'm Daryl Steinberg, former Chairman of the Regional Transit Board of Directors. 1995, 1996. I have not, I haven't been, had the privilege of being before you in a long time. And I know you have a very busy calendar. I thank you for the invitation. I just wanted to come and express my strong opinion and urging as mayor of Sacramento that the board approve the $25 million tonight for the streetcar project. I make this request mindful of the fact that you have many obligations and many needs and priorities for the so-called core system. But this streetcar project can and will also be an essential part of the core system. And what is unique among many other unique aspects of this project, it is the rare occasion where you can put up $25 million and know that there is going to be essentially an 8-to-1 match. It's the federal money, of course, that Congresswoman Natsui has fought so hard for. But I will say as well that in 2014, my last year as president of the Senate, I authored the Cap and Trade Investment Plan in California, which set aside 35% of that hopefully ever increasing amount of money for transit and for inner city rail and affordable housing. And we're getting $30 million out of that cap and trade money. I understand the $25 million is in a way tough, but on the other hand, to not do this means that we lose all of that federal and state money to be able to do something that supports the notion of genuine regional alliance and cooperation, and will be a great economic boon to both Sacramento and West Sacramento. I want to say as well, and then I'll conclude, that the city of Sacramento and I personally am committed to doing all we can to fund and find the funding for the project costs of the Sacramento Valley Station Loop, and that I am committed to working with RT to find a location for the future storage track. And as mayor, when it came last time to Measure B, before I was even mayor, I stepped up to try to help that campaign. We came just short. And I'm all in when it comes to increasing the resources for regional transit in any and every way, so that it's not the streetcar versus the core system. This city, this region ought to have it all. And I urge your aye vote, and will stand behind your decision, even either way. But if you vote for it, I'll stand behind you in solidarity and support, even against some of the concerns and criticisms by others.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. And so what I would do is just thank everyone for allowing Daryl to kind of step in.
Thank you for getting me out of order.
Okay, nope, that's okay.
Okay.
It's, and we'll be getting to this item 22 relatively quickly here, so.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, so back to item 12 on consent. Madam Clerk.
Item number 12, resolution delegating authority to the general manager, CEO, to release a request for proposals and award a contract for Phase 1 of Regional Transit's route optimization study. And Laura Ham is here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, and we do have a number of requests to speak on this item. So Sarah Kerber, and after Sarah is Helen O'Connell, and after Helen is Jeffrey Tardigia. Good evening again, Sarah.
Good evening. Sarah Kerber with the Sacramento Transit Riders Union, SAC-TRU. The Transit Riders of Sacramento have expressed concerns about using outside consultants to perform the system redesign instead of using the excellent planners that are already on staff at RT. These planners have a detailed understanding of how our transit system and community has changed over the past several decades. Staff has identified a total of $140,121 for the consultant project thus far, which staff believes will be sufficient to secure a qualified firm for the first phase of the project. We would like to know the estimated total cost of this project, done in-house and conversely done by the outside consultant before any funding is approved for this project. We are also concerned that basing route changes on survey responses from an internet-based English-only survey will skew system changes to disadvantage large portions of transit riders in violation of Title VI, which prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and nation of origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. We believe that community involvement in this process can help update our system in a meaningful and effective way. Community involvement can help identify safety and accessibility issues in the planning process, such as bus stops like the one that I identified earlier in my comments. We request that communications and outreach for events for this project be conducted in the top languages used by regional transit riders, including English, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, Hmong, and Vietnamese. That's events with interpreters there, not events where people have to call into the very cumbersome translation service that the Sacramento Transit Riders Union has identified before. I don't know if any of you have ever called it. I have. It is ridiculous. We also request that RT provide outreach in a greater variety of venues, including neighborhood associations, community centers, and schools. Providing English-only outreach to audiences that do not currently use the regional transit system will not provide the needed input to develop a system that works for actual riders. We would also like a seat at the table when stakeholder meetings are held to discuss the route optimization program. We request that community and rider groups such as the Sacramento Transit Riders Union and the Regional Transit Mobility Advisory Council be invited to participate in the route optimization process. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So can we get some sound to Helen over here? Great. Thank you, Adam. Good evening, Helen.
Good evening, Board. My name is Helen O'Connell, and I'm really concerned about the route optimization program getting done outside of RT. If we can do it inside for less money, that would make sense. People that live here and work here know what they need better than an outside firm. I'm also reiterating what Sarah said on the letter about the stakeholders being kept in the loop, because without the stakeholders that need to know about this route optimization program, you might miss a lot of good information that they might have that that's not available to you in any other form. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ellen. Jeffrey?
Well, as you can see, I'm up here because last November I put a request in to have, like when I took Henry on a ride-along on Route 30 before the route changed, in wanting other things to deal with this system optimization. So I hate to see that we keep spending consulting money and spending dollars when it appears that, you don't know what your system has to offer. And it seems like communication, because I do not know which groups have been contacted, would love to see that list of who has been contacted for this system optimization, but can tell you, I know if you talk to Mike Baum here, he'll tell you about, what Pride is going to be redoing related to McClellan, telling about what's going on with the Country Club Center. There is a number of other locations that need to have more input. And I question, like dealing with Florin Avenue, where is a transit center of buses. Again, you go out to consultants to get it. Where are they getting that information? The records? And yet it seems that you don't even know right now in producing what changes are going on and what bus stops are not being utilized. As you saw earlier demonstrated, people have concerns, and I don't think this is the best way of RT to spend the money. Board, you seem to always like to hire consultants. I think you've got one that's gotten paid more money than we pay the 24-hour general manager right now. Is that the best use of your dollars? It seems like you've got pilot projects and the reports back I have never seen. I wonder, you say you got good results from such and such, but no written results about this. So please, before you approve dollars like this, I'm hoping that you know exactly what the other stages are, just like I asked you about the Connect card to see how many years ago to what you are about to get, and the contract you agreed to earlier in the consent docket, what are you getting for it and why? These are things that I think as board members you should be asking. And that's why I've encouraged over the last couple of years, board members, ask better questions of the staff. That's my thing about optimism. And I would love to see when I get with Neil, a scheduler, and see, because right now you changed Route 30, and I think it's a good idea what's gone on, yet riders know it, but do you know what has changed on Route 30?
Thanks, Jeffrey. And Russell Rawlings. Can we get Russell some sound there? Good evening, Russell.
Good evening, board. My name is Russell Rawlings. I am a member of the Sacramento Transit Riders Union and also president of Dogfight, Disability Organizing Group for Initiating Total Equality. And I'm very concerned, I've waited more than a decade for a good route optimization study. And it's a little disturbing that we have to start off with criticism before we even get started, because the first thing that appears to have happened is that a giant pinata of money that RT usually is swinging around and throwing out money again. I think there's a lot of knowledge that's internal to RT that should lead the process. We should be seeing what's going on inside before we worry about dragging somebody in from the outside. I know that $140,000 and change seems like a lot of money, but that could easily be soaked up from an outside entity just trying to figure out what's going on internally inside RT. So I would just parrot everything's been said before, but there's a lot of knowledge here. Staff is very knowledgeable, and I believe that they should be the ones leading this discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. And I'm going to ask Laura to come up and just address the contract issue here and where we are in the early phases of this.
Good evening. So the total budget right now is $200,000, and we estimate that the cost of the project will be around that mark. When we benchmarked against other transit agencies, they've spent between $200,000 and $600,000 for a project of this nature, where you're doing a total comprehensive operational analysis. Some projects are upwards of $2 million, which is the number we mentioned to you back at the Strategic Vision Workshop. And that total budget would include any capital improvements that would need to be made with route restructuring, moving routes to different streets, creating new stops, creating stops that are fully accessible and compliant with current code. So with a project of this size, it's pretty standard industry practice that you bring in some outside support for some key tasks, including the data analysis that would need to take place, assistance with setting up community workshops. I do appreciate the very kind words about our internal staff. Our staff is very talented and is very involved in scoping the project to date and will be involved as we move forward. One of the first tasks is actually spending some time talking to our frontline employees, our operators and supervisors, and gathering information as a part of that effort. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Director Kennedy?
Yes, thank you. Actually, Henry, you and I have spoken about this, and particularly about the outreach component. And you had assured me that regardless of, even though it will cost more money, that we will have the availability of all of the languages that were mentioned. Is that right?
Yes, Vice Chairman. Actually, I just want to add some comment here. I'm really happy to hear what Public just said, because they actually gave strong confidence in internal staff. I want to assure you guys, first, internal staff will need this project. The consultant is really just to support. And there's no way the consultant will need this, consultant just support this. That's first. Secondly, we want to use the consultant as the best practices, because they can bring what's going on in other part of the countries, and they did this for other agencies, and we just want to get the best from them. But again, no matter it's a consultant or internal staff, they are going to listen to the community intensively, carefully, diligently. They will. We are going to have the bottom-up community engagement strategy. So we're going to listen to you guys, listen to the community first. Again, appreciate those comments. It's great comment, and really appreciate your confidence in the internal staff.
I did just want to add, too, that the online survey that we did does not take the place of any of the outreach that we'll do for route optimization.
My next comment,
Okay.
and when we do the outreach and we have the workshops, you're going to contact the people who have, you're going to contact
Absolutely.
Transit
We've already
Writers
been in touch with the Transit Writers Union, and our RT's Mobility Advisory Council will be heavily involved as well.
Thank you.
We're going to have at least 6 different languages translations. But the online survey actually was for another purpose.
Okay, great. Director Hume?
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I want to thank the folks that commented on this item and the fact that they're sort of watching how we go about this process. But I would have to respectfully disagree with the idea of the spending of the money for the consultant, because I think that some things, shoes are a perfect example. If you spend a little more on them, you're going to get a longer shelf life out of them. And I think that this is such a hefty undertaking for the future of RT that we should do it once, do it right. And to have those outside consultants, and I certainly echo the confidence in the internal staff and the job that they're doing. But you know, a fresh set of eyes every now and then, you see something that may just be white noise to somebody who sees it every day and can look at it differently. And so I would say that to have somebody who doesn't have any kind of particular prejudice, and I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but or particular affinity may be a better word, for certain neighborhoods, and are simply looking at the data. Where do people ride? How do they run? And what's the most efficient possible route? And taking the sort of the human element out of it for the time being. And then obviously internal staff would be there to inform that back into the process. So I support the item and would be willing to move it.
Okay. Any other comments? Motion by Director Hume, and was there a second? Second by Director Chenier. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 95 votes.
Right, finally, left consent.
General Manager's Report, item number 20.
All right.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and the public. First, I want to update our transit means business launching and new transit agents press conference. As an effort to keep the momentum going, we had two significant events last week. First, last Wednesday, we had a very successful state-of-art-like event we called Transit Means Business, hosted by the Metro Chamber. We reached sponsorship goal of 60,000 more than a month early, unlike before, we did not reach the sponsorship goal. And more than 450 people attend the event. Based on the criteria of attractiveness, formula, and content, Metro Chamber and the people preliminarily rated the event as one of the best events. It's not official yet. I want to specifically thank all parties who made this possible, especially Metro Chamber, our team marketing and communication team, and Ms. Wendy Hoyt, artist executive consultant for community relations. Secondly, last Friday, we had a very exciting press conference regarding 3 major operational and security enhancements. Several RT board members attend, including chairman, vice chairman, director Chenier, and some other representatives. During the press conference, representatives from major TV stations and newspapers joined the event. The 3 major enhancements are, first, public announcement system, which will allow staff in the operational control center to remotely and directly communicate to people in 52 light rail stations. Those announcement maybe the announcing the direction of trains and any emergency situations or any suspicious activities. Secondly, this will enhance customer service as well as safety and security. Second initiative is the paid fare zone. We are going to roll out to all 52 light rail stations, which again will make our customers feel more safe and convenient. The third enhancement is our new transit agents program, which is one of many examples of our new business models to put our customers first and run RT like an effective business. The second update is on May 21st through May 23rd, Vice Chair candidate Director Chenier, David Sananis, Connie Garcia, and myself participate in the 2017 Transit Initiatives and Communities Conference in Seattle, along with a small delegation from Sacramento. During the conference, which was hosted by the Center for Transportation Excellence, agencies and advocates from around the country addressed attendees with best practices and lessons learned regarding community transit ballot measures, especially in AOA, San Francisco, Utah, Seattle, and other cities. There are many valuable takeaways which will be greatly helpful to us. Last week, Chair Morin and I had chances to meet with County Supervisors Sue Frost and Susan Peters to share some of these takeaways and also share RT's strategic vision and initiatives. The third update is the Watt I-80 Light Rail Station Improvement Plan. As an example again of continuously to put our customers first, we had a plan to we're going to implement this plan to completely turn the Watt I-80 Light Rail Station around by putting more lighting and painting, providing a dedicated cleaning custodian 24 hours, 18 hours during the service time, and providing more security personnel even with the armed personnel security staff, replacing two often broken elevators, which are all already out of the useful life, and locking down the stairways at night. The plan is to build a new window of security for the citizens of Northeast Corridor. In the meantime, we try to address customers' concerns or complaints in a timely fashion on a daily basis. One of the examples is what we showed. Where's that? What we showed in the board package regarding the painting of instrument houses in Rancho Cordova, to repaint, to cover those graffitis. That is before, that is after. We got this request the afternoon, one day earlier, the second day, we made this happen. But we normally address customer concerns on daily basis within 2 hours, such as cleaning some bus stops, whatever. But this is just some extreme case, 24-hour stuff. If we can get this done, we get this done. Another customer service enhancement project is SACRT. Is going to install shelters on mid-high platform on light rail stations. The project will provide people with disabilities better service or amenities and increased incentive to use public transportation by providing enhanced accessibility features. The mid-high shelter project involves installation of shelters over each of the 2 mid-high platforms on 29th Street Station, University 65th Street Station, and the McCartney Arcade stations. Right now, it's 3 stations. The mid-high shelter project funds are fully allocated in our budget. Next, I would like to introduce ARTI's new Director of Planning, James Boyd. James, can you stand up? James comes to us from the state of Alaska, which he was most recently the Chief of Statewide Planning. He has worked his way up through various transportation planning positions for the state of Alaska. He has a master's degree in urban and regional planning from Florida State University and a bachelor's in international affairs. And we are pleased to welcome James aboard, as our board has just delegated authority to us for the release of a request for proposal on a route optimization study tonight. Phase 1 of the project is expected to take approximately 1 year. This is actually, even not the beginning, is prior to the beginning of this project. And, we hope takes 1 year, and then begin with a notice to proceed in September 2017, and ending with a final service change recommendations to board after intensive community bottom-up engagement, community engagement. So welcome, James. And because of today, the time is essence, so I'm not going to ask you to speak. Okay, yes. Lastly, but not least, I want to commend a wonderful job our budget team has been doing for developing our fiscal year 18 budget. A whole bunch of the budget people in there. Can you guys come in? The team, led by Brent Berlinger and David Goldman, along with senior professional Nadia Mokov, Judy Wang, Maureen Rain, Joe Pagliaroli, and others. They have effectively worked with agency-wide staff and external funding agencies to develop a prudent and responsible budget, which has saved RT close to $9 million without service impact, without fair change, and actually with some several service enhancements, like I just mentioned, the mini-high platform modifications and the water IAT light rail station improvements and a whole bunch of other stuff. So thank you guys for the professionalism and dedication. Mr. Chairman, this concludes my GM report.
Okay,
I would
very
love
good.
to answer any questions.
Thank you, Henry, and welcome to Regional Transit, James. And Director Chenier, do you have a?
Thank you. Just a couple of points really quickly, and also welcome, James. So two things. One is I just want to thank Henry. We've done this many times, but it's really a pleasure to be able to come here for these meetings. And we never fail to come here where the organization is not moving forward in multiple ways. And I know that's a tribute to you and to your whole executive team and all of the staff that's doing it. So I don't think we can let that go unsaid. It's really a pleasure, and I know the budget is looking healthier. We have a long way to go, but appreciate all of the work. The second thing is I just wanted to kind of comment and reiterate on one of the pieces from your first point around the transit riders. I think this is a really important piece, and it's something that we've had a lot of discussion about. Bringing these transit agents in-house is the right long-term move for the organization. As we think about stability, as we think about the safety of our customers, having well-trained individuals whose customer service ideas are first and foremost in their minds is critical. And I want to do a shout out to Ralph Niz from ATU. Ralph has been terrific since we started a couple of years ago, really working on RT and turning it around. Ralph has been instrumental in negotiating with the organization and in understanding the long-term goals here, not just short-term, to be able to work with us to be able to make these changes. And I think having these transit agents in-house is going to benefit our ridership. So customer first, which is I know what you talk about all the time, but really signals also how RT is working with its partners. We've talked a lot about that with the business community and the work that Director Cerna and I did with the business community to get us to where we are, but also working with our unions, our employee groups, and our employees is critical to its long-term success. So just want to say thank you and do a little shout out to Ralph.
Thanks, well said, Jay. Any other comments on the General Manager's report? So I do have a couple of requests to speak on this. Mike Barnbaum, Mike, and then after Mike is Jeffrey Tardigian.
Yes. Thank you, Chair Moore and members. First of all, to Henry's points about the event and recognizing folks providing excellent reporting and excellent journalism. I don't believe that regional transit would be where it is today without the excellent reporting in newspaper journalism as well as television. And so I wanted just to have the board recognize a photo on my smartphone. This photo was taken at the Golden One Center at a game in the 16-17 season of four outstanding individuals with McClatchy Corporation, whether it was through the fight to keep the team and build the Golden One Center, transportation, or any other topic across the Sacramento region. We want to recognize in the photo to you today Marcos Breton, Dale Kassler, Ryan Lillis, and here with you in the audience this evening, the Honorable Tony Bijak. Thank you for your excellence in reporting on all the issues across the region, but especially what we're here tonight, transportation. Secondly, I wanted to piggyback on the importance of the Watt I-80 station at not just a regional transit level, but how significant it is across the region in and of itself. The Watt I-80 station has probably more options of one-seat rides to college than most any other station in the region. You can get a one-seat ride on a Placer County bus to Sierra College, a one-seat ride on the Blue Line to Sacramento City and Cosumnes River College, and a one-seat ride on Route 26 to the back of the campus of Sacramento State by the Alumni Center and Football Stadium, as well as the very frequent Route 1 to American River College. No other station probably could make that claim, plus of all of its other RT bus routes to various destinations. In conclusion, when we get to the budget item provided by tonight's budget team, you'll have an attachment in your packet, I've been informed, of customer-first, simple solutions to improve the RT bus and rail network, and we'll dive into that under the budget item.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Jeffrey?
And as usual, one of your ambassador will dovetail on the other ambassador, and would like to encourage Henry to, for the next few months, until that elevator gets fixed, would like to suggest that one in the August meeting of MAC, that you perhaps utilize them to give you and with schedulers, a better idea, because I don't think by the time of September and August 25th that you will have the, shall we say, elevator fixed. So we'd like to see a monthly report about what the progress is and when it's likely to be fixed. What a suggestion would be is, first off, is that you coordinate a little bit of a shuttle service for at least the first 2 or 3 weeks to run from that I-80 location directly to American River, because of the fact that you have so many buses coming in on the east side that one bus is not going to be capable for shuttle service. Also, that it would be suggested helpful to know what the scheduling, and again, I suggest ask the MAC service when their August meeting to be put on their agenda about maybe some better suggestions of timing on the schedules for that, because of that elevator issue. And I suspect it's going to take a while. One of the things that I think also would be helpful is perhaps, since I've heard with Patrick Kennedy at the STA some things with Caltrans, that maybe you figure out where is the better thing with Caltrans involvement about that location. Because last year, I think it cost RT quite a bit of money to run bus shuttle services. This year, again, it's going to cost quite a bit of money, like $250,000+. The optimal, shall we say, of what you're proposing right now for consulting fees. But I think there needs to be a better part in the general manager's report until this accessibility issue is fixed. And I think it's going to be a while to get it fixed. The other thing, I saw your guys' Friday little public press release and the safety and the other things, and saw about the PA system. You know, the PA system board actually was a suggestion of the mobile accessibility of how you responded for the blind. This is a tool you're now using in this manner when you discovered that, hey, it was something that is feasibly possible to utilize. There are other things that really suggest that maybe this board needs to see what the MAC reports offer you in the way of research, because things have not been implemented that the MAC has offered you and done work on.
Thanks, Jeffrey. All right, that concludes General Manager report. Next item, please.
Item number 21, resolution, repealing resolution number 0510-0176 and restating criteria for the sale of property naming and corporate sponsorships naming rights presented by Deborah Salinas.
Good evening, Deborah.
Good evening, Chair Moran and members of the RT Board. Tonight I'm bringing back to you a revised criteria naming rights that was originally proposed on May 8th. That includes all of your comments. And I, along with Miles Gallagher and Ross Kinnerly from the Superlative Group, are here tonight to answer any additional questions you might have.
All right, thanks for that lengthy report there, Deborah. Any questions for Deborah? Very good. That was very nice work on that, Deborah.
Thank you.
And, look forward to executing on some
Thank
of
you.
that. So,
Thank you very much.
very good. So with that, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Director Harris, seconded by moved by Director Hansen, seconded by Director Harris. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 95 votes.
All right, next item, please.
Item number 22, the Proposition 1A high-speed rail funding discussion. And before you are two possible outcomes. One, resolution approving the program of $25 million of Proposition 1A high-speed rail funding for the downtown Riverfront Streetcar project, with an understanding that the City of Sacramento will work with SAC-RT to, 1, fund the project costs for the Sacramento Valley Station Loop, 2, work with SAC-RT to find a location for future storage track, and 3, work with SAC-RT to obtain dedicated transit funding for SAC-RT's strategic initiatives, or B, a motion to direct staff to use or hold the $25 million of Proposition 1A high-speed rail funding for other project needs, presented by Neil Nance.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. Good evening, Neil.
Good evening, sir. Chair Moran, members of the board. As you may recall, staff presented the downtown Riverfront Streetcar project as an informational item during the May 8th board meeting. I'll give you a brief summary of what we discussed at that meeting. It will be brief. The cities of Sacramento and West Sacramento are the project owners. SAC-RT, YOLO, and SACOG partnered with the cities to form the policy steering committee as well as a project management team. SAC-RT is being reimbursed for the design, vehicle procurement, and construction of the project. With the passage of the Fixing to America's Surface Transportation Act, the policy steering committee and the project management team recommended the project expansion from a $150 million project to a $200 million project. With the project expansion, the local match increased from $75 million to $100 million. In order to secure the local match, the PSC and the PMT requested SAC-RT commit $25 million of Prop 1A funds to the project. In early 2016, SAC-RT staff acted, requested, and was granted by the California Transportation Committee a scope change to include the construction of the streetcar in the Prop 1A funding requirements. This CTC action approves the eligibility for use of Prop 1A funds for the Sacramento Valley Station Loop project as well as the streetcar project. During last month's board discussion, a list of eligible projects was requested and was included as part of this item's issue paper. The listed projects have not been presented to the CTC for Prop 1A funding eligibility. The downtown Riverfront Streetcar project is a 5.2-mile alignment that extends from West Sacramento's Civic Center to the Midtown Entertainment and Retail District in Sacramento. The project includes the procurement of 6 modern streetcars and the design and construction of the streetcar vehicle maintenance facility. The Sacramento Valley Station Loop project proposes to relocate the existing Sacramento Valley State Light Rail Station and change the orientation from an east-west alignment to a north-south alignment. It adds approximately 1 mile of light rail track and would connect to 7th Street. The project is estimated at $58 million. SAC-RT is currently unable to allocate the required match for the project. SAC-RT, a responsible partner, and because of SAC-RT's strong partnership with the City of Sacramento, and the understanding that staff understands the city will work with SAC-RT to fund the SVS Loop project. The city will work with SAC-RT to fund an agreeable location for the required storage tracks, and the city will work with SAC-RT to seek future funding for SAC-RT strategic initiatives. With that understanding, the Streetcar Policy Steering Committee, Project Management Team, the City of Sacramento, and SAC-RT staff proposes the board allocate $25 million in Prop 1A funds to the downtown Riverfront Streetcar Project. The streetcar project will bring federal and state money and jobs to the region, enhance the regional intermodal network, improve access, and grow ridership for the light rail system. Thank you, and staff is available for any questions.
All right, thank you, Neil. So I do have, probably a dozen or so requests to speak on this item. So any questions of Neil before I get to the public? Director Kennedy.
Yeah, less so a question, Neil, but I just want to make a point of clarification so everybody is aware, and it's not misleading in our report at all, that as of today, that the county has not actually committed the $3 million.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Let's see. So yes.
Neil, if a project is submitted to the CTC, how long does it take to go through the approval process?
That's a good question. I asked David to answer that question for me. Dave?
The expert from
Well, I was going to ask David to answer that question.
Looks like we're pulling out the expert from the hallway there.
Hi, David Goldman. I just had to confer with the grants manager, Maureen Ring, who was honored before by Henry. About 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before I get to, okay, so public comment here. So again, got about a dozen or so speaker request cards. We'll start out with Dan Allison. Dan. Following Dan will be Craig Powell, and following Craig will be Russell Rawlings.
Good evening, board members. Dan Allison. I'm speaking for myself this evening. I am not opposed to the streetcar. I like the idea of the streetcar, but what I am opposed to is spending this particular pot of money on the streetcar at this time. What Prop 1A is about is better connections to eventually high-speed rail, but currently to the long-distance trains and Capital Corridor, and I don't feel that $25 million to the streetcar accomplishes that. I was in Denver last year, and Denver has a direct across platform transfer from long-distance trains to their light rail system. It's the best I've seen, but other cities have pretty good connections. We don't. We need a better connection, and in order to get a better connection, we need to spend money on it. There needs to be a good connection between our light rail system and our trains for when high speed eventually gets here, but now as well. I realize that there's not enough money to complete the SVS Loop project, but not spending the money on starting on the SVS Loop project for an eventual hope of additional funding, working with the city, doesn't make sense to me. The money's available now. It should be spent on SVS Loop. We need low-floor rail cars to go to the station. People who are traveling, hauling luggage, hauling bicycles, can't use our existing light rail fleet. The steep stairs just do not work for people. The service hours and the frequency at the station are also not good. They need to be improved. We could really do a good job. When I was in Denver, 25% of the people debarking from the California Zephyr walked directly to their light rail and got on it. 25%. What could we do with that? The streetcar is not a good solution for regional connectivity. It's meant to be a low-speed pedestrian accelerator and a development supporter, and those are good things. But that doesn't get people to the station in an efficient manner. Someone doesn't want to spend 30 minutes on the streetcar to then take a 3-hour trip to Southern California. That doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Craig Powell. Following Craig is Russell Rawlings.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. It's good to be here. I'm Craig Powell. I'm the president of ION Sacramento. I'm also vice president of the Sacramento Taxpayers Association, and I chaired the campaign that led to the defeat of Measure B in November. You've received a press release, I believe, that we issued out, citing a whole slew of reasons why it's a terribly poor idea for the RT board to take precious capital funds when you have a whole roster of critical needs for the light rail system, and to instead pour that money into the streetcar system. Frankly, I appreciate the mayor coming down, but the mayor was sold a bill of goods on this. First of all, this is not an economic driver. The Federal Transit Authority itself, the main funder, has done a study and found that there's absolutely no evidence to support the argument that this is an economic stimulant or a trigger to development. This will benefit primarily one politically connected developer in West Sacramento, and he may get a little bump in rents, a little bump in his condo prices. But let's think about it. On the West Sacramento side, from the get-go, they'll have 30-minute headways. And then there's the whole question of the operating deficits. The staff originally projected a $2 million annual loss for the system. Then that was moved to $3 million. Now it's $5.1 million. Our professor, Greg Thompson, who is a nationally recognized expert on transit, has projected that that loss will be between $6 and $8 million. Now, why is that important? It's important because if this is running chronic deficits, it's going to fall to RT to make up for it. And you can either fund it through your general fund, or you can slash services, which is going to make headways even longer and longer. Instead of getting 30-minute headways in West Sac, you'll have an hour. Instead of 15 in Sacramento, you'll have 30 minutes. And no one is going to take a streetcar to go 5 blocks and wait a half hour for it. We also have Howard Jarvis Taxpayer Association has given you a letter that states that the election that is currently pending among property owners in downtown and midtown under Mello-Roos is illegal, that it doesn't comply with Mello-Roos, and that if it was approved, would be legally struck down. So that's $2 million of support for this that is in grave legal peril. And we know that Howard Jarvis has an excellent track record in succeeding in following through on legal claims. Fundamentally, we have a choice, this board. A few years ago, not that long ago, this board made a terrible decision in spending $43 million on the Green Line to Township 9, sold as an economic development measure. Well, Township 9 declared bankruptcy last week. How did that work out? And I suggest that this is the exact same white elephant idea. RT is not in the business of stimulating economic development by tying up funds with a particular developer or to benefit primarily a developer. It needs to think of the system as a whole. The non-Sacramento City Council members of this board need to think of what's going to benefit your constituents. And a short circular streetcar in a very small area of one jurisdiction doesn't serve the jurisdictions or constituents of Rancho Cordova or Elk Grove or Citrus Heights or Folsom. So we urge you to reject that option and to pursue option B, which is to use these funds for truly great needs that your system has. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. So Russell Rawlings, following Russell will be Gregory Thompson and then Stephen Barrasso. Good evening, Russell.
Good evening again, board. My name's Russell Rawlings, and I ran for mayor once. As many of you know, transportation is what gets me around. I rely on it very heavily. So just like Dan Ellison said, you know, I'm not against the idea of more transit, but this is the wrong thing right now. In a time when we are assessing the entire system, to throw something in that is completely foreign to it, to upset all of these things, to move light rail stations off of a well-trafficked thoroughfare that has just experienced some revival, makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It just doesn't make sense. We appreciate, though, I'm going to start off with a little bit of kudos. We appreciate the work that staff did on the request that I had, which was to find out what other projects are eligible. And I know that the board has been presented with a list, and it's pretty long and a little difficult to get through in 4 days. So I wouldn't fault any of you if you haven't had a chance to review it all yet. I don't want to oppose transit. I really don't. I think I saw a quote that I really liked earlier today. I don't want to resist. I want to build. And I think in these times, it's really important to understand that there are there's a lot of opposition out right now. But really this, You know, changing maybe gears for a moment is really about building for the future, making sure that the whole system stays whole. For example, making sure that those light rail vehicles that are aging, that are difficult to maintain, are replaced at an earlier time might allow funding for other projects. It might be easier to apply for federal funding for something that makes more sense down the line. And in a time where federal funding is uncertain, it might be better to look at doing things internally to kind of clean up and continue this, you know, stated goal that RT has of making sure that the system is safe and reliable. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Russell. Gregory, following Gregory is Stephen Barassa and then Dennis Newfield. Good evening, Gregory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Greg Thompson. I am Vice Chair of the EOS Transportation Committee. I want to urge you, do not divert desperately needed RT funds to the frivolous streetcar project. Vote no on agenda item 22. A no vote will improve transit service in Sacramento. A yes vote, on the other hand, will worsen it. Let me explain. RT needs every penny it can get and more to restore public confidence in the transit system. We are pleased to see that new General Manager Henry Lee and his staff are making good use of the pennies at their disposal. Enforcing fare collection and sprucing up trains and stations make riding the system more enjoyable while improving morale of the staff. Restructuring debt to reduce annual payments and renegotiating labor contracts leaves more funds for operations in the future. So these are good beginnings, and we want to see the momentum continue. This certainly is no time for you, RT's governing body, to get in the way of RT's renaissance by diverting a big chunk of RT's existing pennies, $25 million worth of them, to another organization to build a project that will undermine RT's service to those of us who use it. Others have explained how the streetcar will negatively affect users. I am concerned particularly that the operating budget for the streetcar is underfunded, even if Measure S passes. It is highly doubtful that there will be enough fare-paying passengers to bring even a small fraction of the $2 million that the budget assumes they will contribute. In addition, I calculate that the streetcar will cost $2 to $3 million more to operate each year than it is budgeted for. I fear that pressure will be put on RT to provide the extra operating funds at the expense of its existing passengers, even though everyone denies that is the case, but who else will provide it? Moving the blue line, the blue light rail line from the K Street Mall to H Street is also destructive. The move will shift the blue line directly into a traffic maelstrom that forms on 7th Street between H and J Street during some Golden 1 events. This is a serious problem for the Gold Line right now. I've been caught on trains for 15 minutes just going one block in that stretch 3 times now. And as far as I know, the city and the traffic police have been unable to solve it. It is irresponsible to send the blue line into this traffic mess as well. In addition, the streetcar will be sent there, and the city seems uninterested in solving this traffic mess, even though the mayor professes support for transit. So do your best to find additional funds for RT. Under no means give away any of RT's existing meager resources to fund a frivolous and possibly destructive streetcar. Thank you.
Thanks, Gregory. Stephen, after Stephen is Dennis Newfield.
Thank you, Chair and RT Board. I had the pleasure of attending the Transit Means Business luncheon. That was fantastic, being in a room of advocates for transit, and it was very inspirational. The keynote speaker, John W. Martin, the CEO from Southwestern Institute of Research, had some really promising information. Not to view transit as only transit-dependent riders, but this is the go-to feature that millennials on the move, today's workforce is looking for. They don't want to be saddled with their car. They want a city where they can ride a train, ride a bus, and walkable, bikeable. This is today and tomorrow's workforce. And John ended on a note saying that cities need to invest in their legacy systems first. That is where your core ridership serves your core ridership before you spend money on a shiny new train. And that's what we're facing. That is the tug of war. Do we invest in our current system or this new toy? Uncle Sam is giving out streetcars. Every city wants one. And I don't fault the city for wanting that. You know, they're possibly giving $100 million. Right now it's $50 million. You know, the city is contributing $7 million to this project. So they're looking at a 28-to-1 match. Quite a good deal for the city of Sacramento, and I don't blame them for being an advocate for their needs, but it's really not a good fit right now, the streetcar. We need a state-of-the-art transit system in Sacramento, the capital of California, the fifth largest economy. We need a flashy new light rail, and not just replacing some of the cars, we need to replace the entire fleet with shiny, low-profile vehicles serving the region. New stations without those big platforms. You know, everybody hates those things. There's no reason to move the blue line off of K Street. Those beautiful new light rail trains going down K Street are fantastic. You don't need the streetcar to do that. You know, our current system, buses running once an hour, key bus routes. An aging fleet, 30 years old, our light rail. Half of our light rail fleet is past its service life. This is really deplorable conditions we're facing, and we need every dollar to get this going. We have an opportunity with these Prop 1A funds. It was originally earmarked for the SVS loop remodel. You know, if you went back to that, for example, you've got the 25. The city of Sacramento pledged some money towards that, so you already got some money on your way for that local match to get that extra 25. How much is the city planning to contribute to that project? I would like to know that. One final thought. You know, the smartphone revolutionized communication. Who would have expected this? So we need to be forward-thinking. Autonomous shuttles. There's other alternatives to serve this West Sacramento connection. You know, a fleet of 6 autonomous shuttles. The wow factor would be far better than going backwards to a early 20th century technology that's really kind of out of date today. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Dennis Neufeld, Jeffrey Tardagia, and then Glenda Marsh. Good evening, Dennis.
Chairman Moran and board members. I'm treasurer for Ion Sacramento, Dennis Neufeld. And I presented to you folks, you've got a copy of proposed option C here. I'm a supporter of B, but if you folks are inclined to shoot for item A or option A, I'd like to have you consider there are so many things that are premature here with this item even be agended tonight. We've got the uncertainty of Measure S, which is still, the ballots are still being mailed in. We're not going to know that till later this month. We also have, as we've heard tonight, that the $3 million from the county is still in limbo. Also, the $50 million that we've heard with the Supplemental Appropriations Act, that $50 million, you expected 75 or maybe 100, so we're short 50 to 25 million right there. So we're looking at a lot of uncertainty, and so I think if you're really not excited about A, this is an option, and the option C is this. Table 22, return item 22 to unfinished business, including both A and B, after the following have occurred. 1, the election results and any other legal challenges to the city of Sacramento's mail ballot Measure S currently in process has been completed and certified by the applicable election officials. 2, Sacramento County's $3 million commitment has been reapproved by the county supervisors. 3, Federal Transit Administration's $50 million commitment, as approved by the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2017, becomes a legally irrevocable allocation to the streetcar project. And 4, that the state of California's $30 million cap and trade funds has also become unconditionally committed to this project. So here's an opportunity to table this. Let these events happen. Then we got the security and the confidence that the money is there. then we can then move forward with this issue. So I think it's time to take a look at my proposed option C, if you're inclined to go with A. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Jeffrey, Tardigui, Glenda Marsh, and then Delphina Cathcart. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Hello, Board. Now, I know the streetcar would be of benefit to myself because right now when I go to City Hall, I have to walk back because public transportation doesn't go that direction. But I really am concerned about the 14-inch of level, shall we say, for this level streetcar. 14 inches is still quite an obstacle to overcome for accessibility, and that has been mentioned in there. Going around the Memorial Auditorium from right to left, I still haven't heard about the Wi-Fi ability so that the Connect card could be utilized in these 6 cars so you can collect fares and not have it an additional, should we say, related operational expense. I'm not against the streetcar idea, but I think with this, with the public twice saying no, that Measure U funds and Measure B, I wouldn't want to vote for him with the fact that you pushing this is politics as usual. And if anything this year you should have been aware of, politics are not usual. And the people are turning around telling you, don't do the usual thing. I will attend 2 days in trying to support other measures, the single payer, heavy lift, particularly, but it's now become the new litmus test for the Democratic Party. Tonight, again, you have the decisions to make to figure out, and I understand that I believe, and Steve can probably correct, is when the Streetcar Guidance Committee is next meeting. I think there's a lot of people, like many years ago when I asked when the Sacramento Transit Authority occurred. It's a long time before members here even admitted that it existed. It was like it was their own private little politics, playground and funding source. That was a shame. Here is something again that if you look in 5 years back with 20/20 hindsight, you will see what this cost you.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Glenda? And after Glenda is Delphina, and then Eric Crane.
I'm Glenda Marsh, and I am here representing 350 Sacramento, our local climate change advocacy organization. I've also met with several of the city council members here as a member of the Committee for Advancing Women and Girls in the city of Sacramento, and talked about actions the city can take to advance that agenda. And transportation is a key part of that agenda as well. So some of the things that really struck me here. Well, first also let me mention that I, with 350 Sacramento, for the last year, we've been organizing a series of workshops called Transit 101. And there are many people here in the room who've participated, and it was our community collaboration to become effective, informed transit advocates and to understand the budget, the situation, the needs, et cetera, and to come up from a community perspective, come up with priorities. We've had the pleasure to meet with Henry Lee many times, many of the key staff, as we learn and go through that process called Transit 101. And a real big takeaway, and we also looked at the local ballot measures and take homes from that, and we heard directly from people from the East Bay who'd worked on successful ballot measures there. And I think a key take home from all of that work, and I think Henry Lee will probably agree, is that there's great potential for community support for a larger budget for RT to meet its priorities. But the give and take of that is that community organizations and members need to see their priorities reflected in that budget. And the streetcar, by and large, is not one of those priorities. And 350 Sacramento would advocate for option B, to use that money for other significant needs in the system. It's a subsidy, right? Anything that RT spends in its budget on a project like this is subsidizing that project. But there are lots of other things that RT needs to do and to share those subsidies and create subsidies to provide service. Economic development, I mean, you know, there's no bigger economic driver than having a bus you can take to get to your job or school. Especially important for women and girls in our community to be able to do that and get an education for higher paying jobs and to get to those jobs. I appreciate the mayor's commitment to try to work with RT to replace these funds by expanding the budget and getting more resources to replace that $25 million. But there is no plan for that, and I think the community does not have a lot of confidence in that. I see the opportunity for real teamwork here on the part of this board to think very broadly about RT's needs and what's good for the community. And I'm hearing a commitment for bottom-up planning, for outreach to take in that input from the community. To vote for option A simply means you're ignoring that. And you're ignoring the opportunity to have very strong constructive support from the community for larger budgets from future revenues that may come into the system. So if you're going to vote for measure A, or for option A, I would like to see how the city and RT and the board members are going to make up that $25 million so that other needs can be funded as well. There's got to be a deal here. The deal that I see here in option A, I don't think is a solid deal, and I would reject it. Thank you.
Delphina, then Eric Crane and Mike Barnbaum.
Good evening, Chair Moran and Board of Directors. We've got an important issue here this evening, and we thank you for letting us speak about it. My name is Delphina Cathcart, and I'm speaking for Sacramento Transit Advocates and Riders, otherwise known as STAR. The purpose of Proposition 1A funding is to enhance connection between local and regional transit and the Sacramento Valley Station, both for existing Capitol Corridor and long-distance trains and future high-speed rail. Existing light rail service is limited by the light rail station location, by steep-staired, high-floored cars, which are very difficult to use for travelers with luggage and bicycles and babies, and by limited service hours and frequencies. The Prop 1A funds should be used to create a better station location as part of the Sacramento Valley Station Loop project, to purchase low-floor cars that can be used by travelers, seniors, people with disability, or kids, and to increase service. As many train stations, a significant portion of travelers use light rail for connections, and this can occur in Sacramento with targeted and effective expenditures. The streetcar is intended to be a pedestrian accelerator and a development tool. It isn't designed for speedy access to the train station, nor to carry luggage and bicycles. It focuses on the downtown core and not on regional service. It is therefore not the best expenditure of Prop 1A funds. STAR believes that the $25 million should be retained for other projects that better serve rail connectivity in the region. Thank you.
Thank you. So Eric, followed by Mike Barnbaum, and then Sarah Foster.
All right. Good evening, Chair Moran and directors. My name is Eric Crane, and I'm the policy advocate for the Downtown Sacramento Partnership. Downtown Sacramento Partnership has long prioritized improving the efficiency and safety of downtown's transportation system. We've been here before, and we've talked to you about advocating for projects and policies that will improve linkages that connect people and places in our region's core. We're here this evening to urge you to keep it up. Keep supporting smart projects that are critical to improve our transportation network as a whole, projects like the streetcar. As our central city continues to grow, increased demands are being placed on our existing transportation infrastructure. With this elevated need for new modes of transportation, the Downtown Riverfront Streetcar project will be a new connection choice for urban residential areas and employment centers with the amenities that people want and people need. This project is a critical infrastructure component to meet mobility needs and reduce car congestion downtown that will only get worse as the years pass. And the streetcar will connect to other regional transportation services, making the network that's been so talked about this evening. It's the emphasis on a strong transit system that's focused on our board to prioritize the streetcar project. Your approval of Prop 1A funds for the streetcar project are critical to moving forward the benefits of this project, from being able to relocate light rail from K Street onto H Street, to improve multimodal transportation efficiency, and to add local new tax revenue. So we urge you to support streetcar. Investing Prop 1A funds is a prudent choice. You're investing in the region, strengthening connections between Sacramento, West Sacramento, and beyond. And downtown property owners are now voting on the Community Facilities District that will support the operations and maintenance of this project. Just as important, the streetcar benefits will be achieved without additional operational maintenance cost to Sacramento RT. So let's keep Greater Sacramento Region's momentum moving forward, and let's support the streetcar. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So Mike, following Mike is Sarah, and then Sam Stefanski.
Thank you, Chair Moore and members of the board. Mike Barnbaum of Ride Downtown 916. Many of our members, as you may know, started out as members of Crown Downtown, the folks originally in the white T-shirts that attended numerous of the city council meetings favoring the construction of what is now the Golden One Center. Streetcar has been something that has been long on the minds of our members as a way to improve the downtown culture, activity, livelihood, and entertainment scene that started with the construction and completion of the Golden One Center. It's just getting better from there. We feel that it is not just connectivity to the future of the bullet train, as staff has indicated in their report, but a lot of our folks have stressed the connectivity to the Golden One Center, downtown Commons, the up-and-coming Major League Soccer stadium in the rail yards needs to be mentioned, as well as connectivity to Capitol Corridor, Coast Starlight, California Zephyr, and let's also not forget, as we'll discuss in item 25 more in detail, the San Joaquins. This is a very important step, and we also would like to encourage, if RT is able to put any of this funds into its existing bus system, as you'll see in the attachments on your next item, what other simple ways can RT do to improve bus service and especially connectivity? And we'll just highlight this as it relates to this item. Route 51, improve weekday frequency to 10 minutes, Saturday every 20 minutes, Sunday every 30 minutes. Route 51, realign route in downtown Sacramento to make the Sacramento Valley Station the downtown terminal. Right now, with bus service only being with Route 30, there isn't much else to offer. YOLO Bus will be taking away Route 340A on July 30th with their downtown shuttle concept that they approved at a board meeting of theirs earlier this calendar year. So it's important that bus service be just as much of a component to make it a very true intermodal station, as well as light rail, the Sacramento Valley Station Loop, realigning the Blue Line, adding the streetcar and connectivity to the 4 major Amtrak services in there today. So piggybacking on the downtown partnership and Mayor Steinberg's comments, we move adoption of item A with our comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Sarah Foster and Sam.
Am I the last one?
No, got one more after you.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity of speaking to this. I wasn't going to speak here tonight. I was going to come and cheer people on, but I decided to. A number of things have happened between when I left my house and here. And I just want to say I'm on the light rail and the buses all the time when I'm not on a computer. This is why. I have a lifetime pass, which you don't give out anymore for seniors. They have to pay. And I wouldn't mind, except that why, you don't turn something down when you can get it. I question, if you can afford all this other stuff, why not passes for seniors? Now, the other thing is that coming here, I was late because there's been a bomb threat along the light rail. I don't know if you know that, but it was apparently a bomb threat. We were all shuttled. Now, I would like to say RT handled this wonderfully, the whole thing. I'm very complimentary of the service that is offered by the RT bus, the buses and the light rail. You could use more routes. You could use more buses, maybe smaller buses in the downtown. But basically, today they did well, and they always do. I think you've got actually a pretty good system of buses and light rail. Now, but you do need more routes. I would suggest also, let's get back to that 50-cent run that they used to have for people in the cities. You didn't have to be a senior. Anybody could ride for 50 cents. Maybe some of you remember that. It's been a number of years because they're building all these other things that are very fancy. But hey, what about transfers instead of having to pony up tons of money every time you want an all-day pass? I mean, people like to make stops along the way. I can do it, but most people can't because they've got to, unless they're rich. And so I want to point out one other thing. Paratransit. You're raising the rates on paratransit for people. Seems to me that ought to be brought down. And now, with regard to this federal money that you're getting, I'd like to remind you that every city in this country wants to have a streetcar. That's sort of the latest thing out there, is to have the streetcars. And the problem is that they aren't making money, and you have the feds deciding who's going to get the money for their streetcar. There's only one streetcar that I found in this country that actually has ridership. Now, if you're going to have ridership paying for part of this, make sure that you're going to get riders. Kansas City is getting 6,000 a day. They did what they opened. They go, wow, that beats any place. That beats Arlington. That beats any place. 6,000 a day. It's incredible. It's also free. They're losing money on that. So I would say that routes, cheap rides, transfers, and just remember that the feds, to give you money, have to take money away from the streetcar in Arlington and all these other places. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Sarah, and hang on to that lifetime pass. Okay. All right, Sam Stefanski.
You're not gonna hold him back. It does say lifetime.
Yes, no, we won't take it from you.
But if you will it to somebody, they can't use it, though. So. I'm kidding, Sarah.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the RT Board. My name is Sam Stefanski. I am Congresswoman Matsui's District Director here in Sacramento. It's a pleasure to appear before you on her behalf. She's in Washington, so she can't be here personally, so she sent a poor replacement in myself. Just want to begin by thanking all of you for the leadership and the partnership with the Congresswoman that you've demonstrated in concert with Henry, in concert with RT's truly superlative staff over the last few years. RT's becoming and really is a model for transit agencies around the country in terms of efficient, effective service. And I don't believe I have to tell you, but for the benefit of all the people in this room, you could not have a stronger federal partner than Congresswoman Matsui. She has been a supporter of transit from her first day in office, and she will fight for what RT needs until her last day in office, which will hopefully be a long time off. The Congresswoman asked me to come here to support the allocation of the $25 million Proposition 1A funds to the streetcar project. The Congresswoman is a very strong supporter of the streetcar project for many of the reasons mentioned by the mayor and by the other advocates here. She believes that it is a worthy expenditure of RT's dollars to enhance connectivity, to bring more people to the downtown core, to get people to the Golden One Center, to get them to West Sacramento, to circulate them all throughout the areas in our city that we are really seeing a renaissance in and a revival in. It is true that there are $50 million newly minted federal dollars available for this project, thanks in large part to her leadership. She wouldn't say that if she were here, but I can say it as someone who works for her. She fought extremely hard for that money. She will continue to fight every single day to get the remainder of the money out of the federal government. And I do believe that it demonstrates the extent of her leadership that in this current federal funding environment, $50 million was recently made available to this project. We have every reason to anticipate that that will continue in the future. The last thing I'll say is the Congresswoman has traveled to other cities and seen streetcars. She's seen what they can do for regional connectivity. She's seen what they can do for an economy. She's seen what they can do for people who need public transit. And that is why she's such a supporter of this project. That's why she sent me to ask for your support of item 22 tonight. And I'll just close again by thanking you all for your leadership and for your dedication to people who, by all accounts, this is my first RT public meeting I've ever been to, even though I wrote it as a kid growing up. And this is the lifeblood for so many people in this region. So thank you for everything you do for it, and urge your support for item 22. Thank you much.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, that concludes speaker requests on this item. So any specific questions before we get into deliberations and general commentary? Don? Director Natoli?
Yeah, we could. Not so much under comments as just under questions. I want to ask Henry, first I want to thank staff for providing the list, and I know it's certainly seeing the correspondence and hearing the report this evening. I want to be clear then. So of the eligible projects that are potentially eligible to the projects on this list, then Henry, in your examination, to be clear, then what's before us this evening under option A is the highest priority, because I understand it, staff is supporting that. There's been identified under the list here. So do I take that, or is it not so much a priority as it is an opportunity? I want to get a clear understanding, because as I look at this list, there are things that have been on this list for 20 years under things that we'd like to have, like a Horn Road station or some expansion that would serve the Green Line. Obviously replacing cars in a system that is aging every day. And so I guess I just want to be clear, that I'm not looking forward, and I've been on this board a long time, and we've supported extensions of the service and so forth. But I want to be clear because, and I appreciate the support that's been offered by the city, but I want to be, so is this the top priority of all the things that are here, or do you see other pathways to fund some of these things? Because there are things here on the list that have waited a long time that will continue to wait, may not be eligible under this particular sequence of funding that's available here. But I just want to get a real clear understanding, as you as general manager have taken a great leadership role. I understand you put your support behind this, if I understood the staff report correctly. I want to be clear about that.
Okay. We do have lots of urgent priorities. There's one, I heard so many comments about this Prop 1A money. I think we need to think again. If we use this money for the Prop 1A, use this Prop 1A money for streetcar, what RT potentially will get? Mayor Stenberg spoke about 3 cents. City of Sacramento will help on the SVS loop project, especially the station reorientation. Secondly, the storage track. Thirdly, and most importantly in my mind, is we need additional dedicated local funding for our future, period. Because if SAC-RT needs to meet the demand of the citizens of this region to support this region to become a first-class or world-class city, we needed to have a world-class transit system. To have a world-class transit system, we need lots of support from the local jurisdictions. Number one support is to have additional dedicated local funding. So from that perspective, staff put this agenda item, issue paper in the board package, and also with this $25 million, potentially we'll get another $100 million from the federal government. So it's not something we simply give this money away. So there's some trade-off here. But truthfully answer Director Attorney's question, we do have lots of urgent priorities, no doubt about that. But if we want to look at the future, we want to make sure RT become a world-class transit system, we need additional dedicated local funding. And we need all jurisdictions to support this. And if we want to, and Sam talked about, Congresswoman probably is the best Congress, woman in the country in terms of supporting transit. I worked in 4 or 5 different regions. The congressional delegates, congresswomen or men, they actually, they support transit very, very, very strongly support transit. However, our congresswoman is the best. That's my assessment. Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question, but that is why we put this in the agenda item. I just want to try to put different perspectives there. But I do agree, we do have lots of priorities.
But you're supporting this evening for all the reasons you stated, and so that makes this the top priority for this funding. Is that correct?
In this case, because we will get lots of benefits. That's why,
Okay. Again, there's no wrong answer here. I mean, maybe some folks are. I just want to know that to be sure, because there's a long list, and I appreciate all the leadership you've shown, and certainly my colleagues, whatever their views are of this. And I'm not necessarily opposed, but I want to understand, Henry, because again, you've done a lot of good work in your time as general manager. I hear from a lot of groups who might be supportive of efforts who are concerned about what's being proposed here. But I wanted to know, you as general manager, along with what was given this evening, that you support this.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Schneer.
Thank you, Director Morin, and thanks. I know that was a difficult question, and I do want to acknowledge that as an organization and as a transit agency, we have many, many priorities, from going to the airport to going further into Elk Grove, to adding more buses, to getting low-floor trains, and the list goes on much longer than any of us would see it. But we do need to come together, I think, as a community to really understand the need for a vital transportation system. And I was at the luncheon as well, and what we heard when we went up to Seattle was what I take a lot away from this is having a vibrant transportation system is as much about having a vibrant economy as anything else. And if we have a vibrant economy, that's where we're going to get the funding to do all of these other things. $25 million is a lot of money, but in the scale of need, it really isn't that much. And if we can get to the point together where we do have a dedicated funding source, and we're looking at lots of options with Measure U to potentially increase, so the city could put money into transportation potentially. We're looking at Measure B. Mr. Kennedy and I have had lots of discussions about starting outreach on this, on Measure B. We need to get to that point, and we're going to need a lot more than $25 million to do what we need to do. So understanding that and understanding the context of where we are, I'm supportive of this, and I haven't been working on the streetcar as long as some of my colleagues and as long as some others who've been at this for, I think, 12 years now, all told. I guess, Mr. Long, you've probably been with it the longest. Could we say 12 years on this? Longer than that. So developing this project and really getting people to understand the value of it. So kind of 2 places that I come from. One, the project as a whole. Again, I think it's the right thing for Sacramento. I think that in a discussion with Mr. Miller, and I'm sorry he's ill today, he said to me, if you support the core, you're supporting the region. And as much as we can continue to support the economy of the core, everybody benefits from that in the long term. And this is a long-term play. This is not a short-term play. I've ridden streetcars in other cities, and I think that they work well and they support economic development. I know we took a number of business folks up to Portland to take a look a few years back, and they were so impressed that they came back as advocates for the streetcar where they weren't before that. I do think this fits the requirements. There's connectivity between Sacramento and West Sacramento. I think it's incredibly important with high-speed rail. And I actually think all kind of transit agencies across the region will benefit from that connectivity that will happen. I also think, as a whole, this keeps a lot of the momentum going of the work that Director Cerna started a number of years ago and that Henry has put so much effort into. And we want to keep exciting things happening in the city to keep that momentum going. And that, I think, also will lead to additional funding and additional permanent funding for regional transit. So that's to me the context. The individual items here are, one, as a dollar amount, the leverage aspect, and this was mentioned by a number of people. This is 8-to-1 leverage for RT, and basically a shovel-ready project, if we want to call it that. That is going to create not only the connectivity and the work in the transit system, but it's going to create jobs in our community that are so important. And I would look forward to doing some of the same things that we did with the arena, where requiring jobs from low-income communities would be beneficial to us as we move forward. The fact is that at this point, there are two things that the CTC has said okay on. One is the streetcar, the other is the loop. The fact is that we don't have the match for the loop. When we get that, I don't know. There was an op-ed in the paper that mentioned 3 or 4 different times that we could go get federal money as a match. I don't know where that money is at this point, and we'd have to decide what our priorities are going forward. You did hear the mayor, and Fran Halbachen is here from the city, as Sparky is here as well. The city is prepared to work with RT to do everything possible to make sure that the loop is funded. That is an important piece for the cities, for the development of the rail yards. We need to do that, and I think I'm certainly committed, and we have close to a majority of our council here. With the mayor, we have a majority of the council. I hope we're all committed to doing that and moving forward and finding that money to do the loop. Also, the storage facility, we're committed to working with RT on that. There are a number of other pieces that RT and the city are negotiating, but my hope is that we don't fall into a tit-for-tat negotiation. Everything that RT wants, the city has to give up something. Everything the city wants, RT has to give up something. We should both be doing, making decisions on what's best for the entire community. Sometimes one will come out a little bit better than the other, and I know we have a number of things that are under consideration now, including the 1985 agreement, which RT will benefit from, including the Del Rio Trail and some other pieces as well. But the fact of the matter is, we are public representatives, and we should be looking out for the best case for the community. As I said, kind of overall, I think the leverage on this is as good as you get at 8-to-1. Thank you for doing the math on the city's leverage. I'll take 28-to-1 anytime I can get it. Appreciate that. And I think the momentum is really important. And as, again, Mr. Miller said in our last discussion, which was at the lunch that you went to, if we do things for the core, if we get the core going, everybody is going to benefit in the long term. And this is a long-term play for us. So with that, I am going to move the item and moving staff recommendation on item 1A.
Okay, Director Hume.
Thank you. I will offer a substitute motion at the end of my comments, but I will echo a lot of the comments that Director Chenier just made. But I have a question first. Several of the speakers kind of brought up a worst-case scenario of the ongoing operational cost of this being borne by RT. So assuming that the self-imposed CFD doesn't pass, or assuming that the operational costs exceed projections, or assuming that the ridership is below projections, or assuming any number of different things, if there is a shortfall, how do we guarantee that RT is not on the hook for the operational costs? And the reason why I ask that is because, as I've said before, and hopefully we as an agency have learned this lesson from past practices, is that the federal government is quick to throw money at capital projects, but when you come back knocking for operational dollars, they introduce themselves to you again and say, and who are you, by the way? So we found that out with the Blue Line, and I think that's been the financial albatross that has put us in some pretty dire straits right now, is they were great partners in putting the track in the ground, but now that the money to be capitalized out of it from the operational standpoint has dried up, we realize we're left holding the bag.
How do we guarantee that that doesn't happen, especially given that this is not an RT project? I see everybody kind of looking back and forth like, you gonna take this one? You gonna take this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take this one.
Yeah, that one?
I'm
Okay.
going to take this one. First, appreciate your reminder about Blue Line. Staff learned a big lesson from that. And that's why in the last 16 or whatever month, we are trying everything possible to correct that mistake we have made. And what we plan to do actually, through all these type of initiatives, strategic initiatives we present to the board in February's board meeting, one of many goals is to make sure, we're going to be able to address those consequences of our past decisions by ourselves to bring this agency to the financial, health condition.
And I agree with that. I think it is happening, and I appreciate that effort with respect to kind of what our obligations are.
Yes. So, with that big lesson in our mind all the time, for this case, we talked to the PSA of the streetcar, and we talked to project executive, Mr. Kirk Trust is here, and we are actually developing very strict legal documents to ensure RT is not going to be responsible for any operational funding or deficit. I mean,
and will that be codified?
That
okay.
Absolutely, it's the right direction we're going to go, and we will have legal document there.
Okay.
So I just wanted, because there's several audit public comments mentioned that. I just want to make sure that is not RT's responsibility.
Thank you. Okay. Now that I've learned that Mr. Trost is going to be in charge here, I may have to rethink my entire deliberations. But no, actually, in all seriousness, if you, in the past, let's say, I've railed against the streetcar as a boondoggle, as many of the speakers have said here tonight. And had you asked me as recently as a year ago, I probably would have said this is it's a pie-in-the-sky idea and it's not worth pursuing. Had you asked me 2 years ago or 3 years ago of whether or not the arena deal was a good deal, I'd have probably said no. However, now that it's in the ground and now that I see what's happening downtown, Mr. Rawlings, you said this is the wrong thing right now. The way you phrased that lends me to believe that you would say it would be the right thing at some time. And so I'm going to at least put on the record why I think if it would ever be the right time, now is the right time. And that goes back to something that Mr. Chenier mentioned. In my basic study of physics, which was very rudimentary, I did learn about the laws of inertia and momentum. And that basically it takes less energy to keep a body in motion once it's moving than it takes to start something from a stop. And so I think there is a momentum, and that Sacramento is on the precipice of truly elevating itself to a city that competes with some of the global players when it comes to attracting the next caliber of employer. Because I, too, was at the Transit Means Business Luncheon, and what I heard from there is that there is a direct correlation, and I haven't seen the FTA findings that doesn't link transit with an economic driver. In fact, I've heard of APTA findings that do just the opposite and say there's a return on investment about fourfold when you invest in transit. But here's the important thing that I learned from the luncheon is that companies choose where they want to locate, and I'm talking about campus-style companies, large employers, very cutting edge, very intellectual property dependent. They choose by where the workforce is or wants to be. And the workforce chooses based on the quality of life that they can enjoy. And a heavy contingent of that quality of life is the ease and access to transit so that they can walk out their door and hop on something that moves that gets them where they want to be without them having to pay for insurance or worry about any other upkeep or that type of a thing. So back to the point of Mr. Miller's, as we support our core, so we support our region. For a long time, there's kind of been it's either the downtown crowd or it's the suburban crowd. I still have a soft place in my heart, obviously, for Elk Grove, being from there, and I will still advocate for things that benefit Elk Grove, like the extension of light rail down to our borders. But I think when you're looking at this project, you're looking at raising the bar of what Sacramento is and what Sacramento can be. And you're also extending that connectivity beyond our own light rail network. I would agree that this maybe doesn't have the best interface with our light rail network that it could. I would like to see the SVS loop happening. But what you're extending that to is somebody that hops on the Capitol Corridor, that hops on the San Joaquins, hopefully someday, takes heavy rail into town, and then is able to get on this streetcar for all of the entertainment options, both within entertainment and convention and dining, et cetera, within Sacramento and even in crossover into West Sacramento. So I've come about full 180 on this project just because I'm drinking the Kool-Aid of what Sacramento can be, and I think it's exciting, and I want to see it happen, and I want to help get it there, and I think this project does that. But that being said, so here is my substitute motion with respect to what Mr. Neufeld put on the table, and this was something that I was going to suggest as well, because I believe that the county put this as a part of their, and I don't know the current status of it, but put it as a part of their original $3 million commitment, and that is that essentially the bigger players, their money has to be committed before our money gets put into the pot. And I think it's maybe perfunctory to do that, because if they don't come through with their money, there is no project, and so what would we be spending our money on? But I would like to see us make sure that our commitment is contingent on the FTA commitment and on the state of California cap and trade commitment.
So I would actually take that as a friendly amendment on that, on those two, because if we don't have the 30 or the 50, and I talked to Mr. Trost about this, we don't have a project, so we should see those two.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe, let's see, Director Hansen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you second that motion, Mr. Hume?
I had put a substitute motion, but since he took the friendly amendment, I will second the motion, yes.
All right. Thank you. Well, I think a lot of things have been said, but I just want to recap a couple important points. First, those of you who've walked around this building, you'll see pictures of streetcars around. There's even a great mural on the side of the building of a PG&E streetcar. It's because Sacramento was built on streetcars. And 20 years ago, in the mid-90s, we started talking about bringing back streetcars. Streetcars used to be a very prevalent mode of transportation in our urban cores around the country. And through a process of disinvestment and other things, those streetcar systems were bankrupted, torn out, and what were private operations were turned into bus systems that were then handed over to public agencies like the City of Sacramento, which started regional transit in 1956 as a city department. Yes, there was an election in 1956 that created what later became RT. And trying to restore the mobility for our central core is really important to the life of the region, the vitality of the region. And it's really important that these connections are easy. Somebody talked about the train platform, I think it was in Denver, where you could walk right across and get on from intercity rail. Dan, that was you. Intercity rail to light rail. Those are the kind of things that we really need to be better at. I don't think there's any doubt about it. As you look at mobility options in our region, RT runs buses and we run light rail. Paratransit provides senior and disabled services. We have TMAs providing neighborhood shuttles. The city, through 2 other cities in SACOG, is working on a bike share program. We are trying everything we can do to make it easier to walk by also providing more bike infrastructure. And that's the name of the game. The more options people have, the less they worry about how they're going to get around. We don't want everybody to commute into downtown via car. When we provide less options, we prioritize the car. Partially, too, the comments I heard tonight are about the adversity that our system has faced. There is no doubt our region has not prioritized transit in the same way that it prioritizes driving. Our system reflects that lack of prioritization. We don't get there, though, by providing less transit. I think that I worked along with some of these board members really hard to try to pass Measure B, which would have done some of the things people asked for tonight. New buses, new light rail vehicles that were low floor, additional connectivity, additional bus frequencies, so we could really get express bus head times, potentially do bus rapid transit in some important corridors. Some of the very people here tonight advocating for those things fought us on Measure B, and we lost by a very narrow margin. So what do we want? Do we want a viable, comprehensive transit system that represents our values, or do we want to continue to fight over the same slice of pie? I think Henry said it very well. Unless we have more dedicated revenues, we cannot aspire to the vision that was laid out by many of the critics tonight. And I'll tell you, we don't have a match for these funds if we don't put it into streetcar. There is no immediate time frame in 3 to 5 years where we see something coming that's going to say we can then meet the local match requirements, which are 1-to-1, essentially. We need to find $25 million somewhere, folks. The city is offering to work with RT to help find those funds through grants and other things that we may be eligible for, and in partnership with RT could help deliver, which I think is part of a win-win strategy. So I just, the streetcar project, not everyone has to love it. Just like not everybody wants to walk, not everybody wants to bike. A lot of people want to drive, but that's not good for our region. But I do think that the CTC was very wise in trying to figure out what projects will benefit high-speed rail. The city has invested tens of millions of dollars in the Sacramento Valley Station and our own Measure A resources to make that station viable for high-speed rail and for intercity rail and for bus and other things. This project, the streetcar project, connects to Yolo County as well, which is a tremendous benefit for taking pressure off our city streets, which Mr. Thompson was very clear about being frustrated that there were too many cars blocking the way of light rail, while we are also working on intelligent transportation systems that will give transit priority in those very same corridors. We need to get people out of their cars. The loop, though, the original project that the CTC was asked to support, as I've talked to Mr. Lonergan, it's a project that's obsolete. It was designed before some of these other projects were designed and built. And I think that it is not a truly viable project at this point, so it's somewhat a false choice. It's a mile of track that doesn't add any connectivity to new residents. It doesn't provide much more than some minor system improvement. It does move the platform, which I think is important, and we have to figure out how to do that. But for the total cost of that project, we get very little ridership benefit. And if we're not doing things that add ridership, which I believe streetcar does because it's another way for RT riders to transfer for free, then shame on us for not increasing ridership and giving more options. I would also say the public input is great, and it is not disregarded. But I hear from people every day who think that we should have more options, that RT has to come out of its shell and continue to do things that are maybe difficult but smart for the long term. A lot of these people are younger. A lot of these people think Sacramento has a bright future, like was said by the illustrious Pat Hume of Elk Grove. And I agree with them. I think that this city, this region, is dependent on a central core that is strong. Finally, I just want to thank our city staff, our SACOG staff, the project team, RT staff. This is something we can do now. Congresswoman Matsui's leadership has meant that our federal partners have already allocated $50 million of the $100 million, and we need to get into a full funding grant agreement. I wouldn't have put additional strings on this action, but I understand why we're doing that, and I'll support that. But every time we add strings, it's a question of how we're going to move forward. This is bigger than the base project. We had a mayor who used to say it's bigger than basketball. This is bigger than the base. Our original base project, $150 million project, would not have added the same connectivity in Yolo County. They've stepped up with more money. It wouldn't have moved light rail to H. We would have had much more congestion on K Street, and we wouldn't have gotten some of the system benefits. I think this is a real winner for regional transit, for the cities of West Sacramento and Sacramento. And ultimately, it's the two cities who own the project that have contracted with regional transit who are responsible for any cost overruns, for any operating deficits. Not this agency, not any other transit agency. The buck will stop at the two cities. And that's why we formed a separate JPA to do it. And I just hope that this board continues to make smart choices for the future of our system.
Thank you. Director Harris.
Kirk Trost, I'd like to ask you a question, please. So at the Policy Steering Committee, you laid out a timeline for achieving the Small Starts Grant. A number of pieces had to fall in place in order to be effective in reaching out for this grant. So this piece, the $25 million piece, can you speak to how it affects our application moving forward?
Yes, Kirk Trost, Chair Moore, members of the board. We have set out an aggressive path to try and get to a full funding grant agreement. It's called a Small Starts Grant Agreement for this project. Right. Hopefully this fiscal year, but certainly by the end of the calendar year. And in order to do that, we need to demonstrate to the Federal Transit Administration that we have the local funding for this project. And so with our federal partners, we have been discussing having fully secured these funds by this period, June or July of this year, in order to accomplish that. And it also puts us in a position to get a grant agreement that secures the full $100 million from the federal government.
So in other words, this action by this board is really very pivotal in terms of moving forward with the Small Starts Grant.
Yes, it's absolutely critical. We represented to the federal government that we have 50% of the funding for this project secured, and this project has received a high rating from the federal government for local financial assistance. And based on those representations, securing these funds now is what's critical for us to get that $100 million in federal funding.
Okay, thanks very much, Kirk. I appreciate that clarification. You know, Director Chenier mentioned that it's really about getting people to understand the value of it. I think that's what you said. And I think that a number of people don't understand the value of this. So I go back to the Golden One Center, and I know that there were many detractors from that project, some of them sitting in this room. There were many opinions expressed about why it would be very bad for the city to undertake that project, that it would create basically financial ruin and set us back on numerous other projects. But apparently Director Hume became a believer, and that's no small feat. So the fact of the matter is, originally on the G1C, I was not a strong proponent because I didn't like the financing mechanism, and that changed the type of bond that was offered, and it became a very viable project. But what we've found is that the G1C has added a tremendous amount of value to the city in terms of the momentum of development, and is helping us to achieve a lot of goals that we've set out for the vision of the city. Additionally, you know, people criticize it because they thought that traveling to and from G1C would be an absolute disaster. It was coined Carmageddon. Well, it worked out really well. It worked out extremely well. And in fact, it helped boost RT. So we had a double win there. The point I'm trying to make is that there will always be opponents and proponents on any project, and people will certainly have their opinions, but many people have worked very hard on the streetcar project, and moving this forward at this juncture, if we don't do it, means we won't get that Small Starts Grant. So if we delayed tonight, this project would go away. And that's a chance that I'm not willing to take, because I think there are tremendous upsides to the streetcar project. Is it a great transportation tool? Perhaps not. Is it a great economic development tool? I think it can show its promise in that regard in many ways. Director Hansen mentioned a lot of ideas about mobility, all of which I agree with him. Another person mentioned the Green Line and our investment in the Green Line, and was it worth it? Well, if you take the long-term view, absolutely it was. I'm definitely a proponent of getting light rail to the airport. I've been to many cities where that connectivity to the airport was actually essential to people getting there. And so it's a first step. It may not have paid the full dividends yet, but it will in time. And I look forward to that project moving forward as well. And I also agree with Director Hansen about local investment in transit. We came very close to prevailing in Measure B. It was, the threshold was 2/3, and that may change with state legislation at some point, and I hope that it does, because a majority of the people in this region really want more local investment in transit, and I think it would be well placed. So I'm sorry that we lost that opportunity. I think it was really vital to the region, but we will have to lick our wounds and move forward. For all these reasons, I support tonight's measure, meaning the proposal to move this money forward for the streetcar.
Thanks, Jeff. Director Budge?
So to be quite clear, I love the streetcar, okay? That's nice. I would like to have a streetcar, and it's pretty obvious that we have to start somewhere. But this is not really a proposal that I want to vote for. It's our number one duty to make sure that our system is safe and secure for everyone. And we've got great plans, and we've made marvelous strides in that arena in the last year, and Henry has talked about that, and there's no question that we're doing much better. But it's also our number one goal to increase ridership. And it does not seem likely that the streetcar running from two different places will actually increase the ridership or provide any better connectivity for people who are either on the bus or on the train. And especially since apparently the loop to the station, to the Sacramento Valley station, is a totally separate project that has no funding. So here again, that's a source of riders that are not going to be available to the regular ridership. One would think that if we can make the case that funding the streetcar qualifies for connecting our system to the high-speed rail, and yet it doesn't actually go to where the high-speed rail will be, then many of the things that are on this list could also be funded by this particular source of funding. We've talked tonight about route optimization, and yet route optimization is going to take many years because there is no identified source of funds for where other phases are going to come from. There are other stations that need to be built. We've talked about the low-flow cars. We've talked about the need to replace the older cars. My mother, everybody knows, is one of these people who cannot get up the high steps of the older cars. She has to use the handicap platform, but she's not handicapped. She simply is not able to make that large step up to the level of the cars. When we talk about increasing ridership, one of the biggest hurdles to increasing ridership has been the cleanliness. Yes, the trains are cleaner now, and yes, they don't smell bad anymore, but on the other hand, they still are not, the stations are not in the condition they should be in. The pictures we saw tonight of the one bus stop somewhere, everybody's got bus stops that look like that. Nobody is going to stand there on the side of the road and try to get on the bus. And we have plans, but we don't really have consistent plans for any consistent source of funding other than the son of Measure B. And yes, it was really sad that we came within a couple of percentage points. That's
0.71%.
that's terrible. The cost of elections today, the cost of putting together that kind of support, that's really awful. But that's the way it is. And so the question is the county population really going to vote for a second Measure B the second time around? Like Pat, I believe that if this proposal, if the language of this proposal were modified in a couple of ways, that I personally would be more comfortable with it. It doesn't seem logical that statements such as will assist in getting local funds, or that we have an understanding with the city, and it has nothing to do with the city, it has to do with the language. Will and understanding are not going to bring in something that we can guarantee. One wonders why the word shall were not used in the original agreement. I appreciate the fact that Pat added the principle behind this Measure C, and the fact that the major funders have to be in place before that. And so I'll probably support this, but this is not something I really want to support. Every one of the members of this body has a core, and some of our cores have no transportation whatsoever. So the idea of restoring mobility just to the core of Sacramento, which already has mobility, just doesn't resonate in my city. And I think if Mr. Miller were here, even though he agrees with supporting the core of Sacramento, it might be difficult for him to say that the core of Citrus Heights has funding. And the core of Folsom will never truly have funding until you can take the train past 7 o'clock at night. And the double tracking, which is in this list, is what's going to provide that. It's just very difficult to look at this one particular project compared to the totality of what's on that list and see that this is really a good idea. The timing is right, the project is right, but even if it were a loan, even if if we were lending it to the JPA and there was some mechanism for the JPA to repay the $25 million, something like that would make this more palatable.
Thanks, Linda. Director Natoli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know the hour is getting long, so I'll try to be brief. I do want to say, again, I appreciate the work that's gone into this. I certainly appreciate the support of Mayor Steinberg and the work that the Congresswoman Matsui has done tirelessly, certainly in Washington, D.C., for this community on many different fronts. And certainly she's joined in many respects by colleagues who certainly support her and support this community in ways that bring dollars back to our community and whether it's flood protection or transportation or housing and a variety of other needs. And so, again, I appreciate Sam being here this evening. I'll just say that as I've thought about this over the past many weeks now, since we've known this is going to be on the agenda, that what keeps coming back to me, and that's why, again, I pressed Henry very hard this evening, and it wasn't, again, that I didn't understand certainly your recommendation. It's because as we've sat in this boardroom, and now I've had the opportunity for on close to 20 years, and so I've been a part of many decisions that this entity has made. And I will just say that I believe transit is very important. I represent a very broad district, and certainly Elk Grove and Rancho Cordova are included as a part of that. A lot of unincorporated area, many suburban areas that don't have a bus that gets very close to anywhere where people live or might want to get to. And so I don't necessarily buy into the argument that often put forth that it's people in cars versus people on buses, trains, and streetcars. That we have a region that is very diverse, that has areas that people come to the downtown core, they go to other areas in the region to work, to seek out entertainment. They choose where to live, and whether it's in a rural setting or a newly developed suburban neighborhood or a first ring suburb or the downtown urban core, there's a lot of opportunities to live and work, and that's what's great about Sacramento. And so I think having a transit system that works for people, that allows people to get around, that allows them an opportunity to make a choice about whether they use their vehicle, their personal vehicle, or some other mode of transportation, and whether it's walking, biking, taking one of the things that our transit system offers or others, are all important part of the spectrum. And I think that too often, and again, we see it certainly in the discussion in the land use context, but around things as kind of sometimes almost us versus them, unless we all want to be together and seek out a funding. And so I would just say it's important. People are going to seek out the mode that best fits their lifestyle, that provides them the best opportunity to get from where they want to go, from where they live, or where they want to be. And I think there's always going to be room for cars. There's always going to be room for improved transit and for other opportunities that, you know, maybe at one time seemed to be science fiction, but probably are closer to being reality than some of us might want to even imagine. My point being is that this district, I think, has been forward-looking in a number of respects, and certainly expanding the light rail system over the years, attempting to modify bus routes to the degree that it fits neighborhood desires and getting people in and around our region. But it certainly hasn't been able to expand to the degree that I think folks would have liked. I think optimization of looking at how we can do it better is very, very important. And then, obviously, the recession hit, and I don't blame everything on that by any means, but certainly we took a big step backwards, and that this district still suffers from that. And I certainly am very concerned about the state of good repair, not only for what we already have, but recognizing that we've got a lot of needs that are shown on this list, but on a lot of other lists, that we can talk about it, but we're going to need the support of a whole lot of folks in getting to that bigger vision that certainly, Henry, you've outlined, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that in sessions here. And the reason I say all that is because, again, I think that the decisions we make are certainly important to the vision and the future of this community. Certainly this streetcar project has had a lot of work put in it. It is a vision for an addition to the existing system and what we want to be. And I guess part of the concern I have is not because people can't oppose or take a different point of view or support this, is that we're going to need a lot of folks going forward. And a lot of folks in the audience this evening, you know, whatever their views on it, are going to be critical to that long-term vision. And, you know, we can wait and see what the legislature does relative to voter thresholds and so forth. But I guess my point in all of this is that this has, in my view at least, become a much closer call about whether I would support or oppose this. And that's primarily because I'm concerned about the term we used in our Measure B a campaign, to fix it first, and the condition not only of our transit system, but of our roads and of our other infrastructure that accommodates walking and bicycling and so forth. And then the legislature took their action to pass a bill, and I think that, you know, may bring dollars in one respect, but I think it makes it much more difficult for the local entities to try to climb the hill to go to their voters and people in their respective jurisdictions to seek that level of support. And so for tonight, I think two things have been important relative to information that was certainly built into the discussion, but I think were elaborated on. One being that RT would not be on the hook. I guess I want to see that, you know, not only the JPA formation, but those documentation, Henry, needs to be very, very clear about operational maintenance aspects of this, because even if it's a break-even proposition, at some point in time, that system is going to age too. Our system will be that much older than anything new that gets built in a year or two if this comes to pass, or 3 or 4. And I just don't think that this district, looking to the long term, can take on additional responsibilities for new infrastructure that's someday going to become old when we've got such a backlog already facing us as it relates to buses and trains and to conditions of our facilities in a lot of different respects. And that needs to be very, very, very concrete. And obviously that's not before us this evening. That's part of the package. The other thing is, and I think Director Harris certainly touched on it, and that is the small starts grant funding. I guess there are opportunities that come and opportunities that sometimes you take a pass on, opportunities that you grasp onto, and we did that with a lot of the light rail extensions and some of the other things this district has done. I think it's proven to be an additional burden, but nonetheless, we have a system now that certainly we take pride in. It just doesn't require a lot of upkeep and maintenance in the years to come. And so I think that you know, knowing that certainly has a bearing on my decision. And I guess I'll say lastly, based on the strength of you, the general manager, Mr. Lee, and I'll put this all on your shoulders, but again, I think you are a visionary. I appreciate your work with this community. You take this very seriously, as does every member of this board. And if, again, if I'm making a call on this, it's going to be based upon your staff recommendation and you as general manager and the folks that brought this to us. Because as we look to guide this district in the years to come, it's going to be you and whoever sits in that seat and whoever sits up here is going to be responsible for that. And this is a big opportunity. If we grasp it and get onto it and put the money there, then that's what we do. And we, just go forward and don't look back. But I would just say that if other funding sources don't come to pass, I don't lay it out on your front desk, but I'm going to say that the challenge will only mount as we add this as a component of what we had seen in our transit system in this community. But the responsibility for everything else that was already in that line and that will continue to build is going to rest on this board's shoulders and on that of the staff here, and it could be an impossible task. And so, again, I guess with that caution, I'm prepared to support the motion here this evening. But I do think that we are basically going into some uncharted waters potentially when it comes to how we continue to maintain the system we currently have. Thanks.
Thanks, Don. Anybody else? We all good? So I'll just kind of fall into the category of, a lot of reluctance along the way. I'll just say, a couple things that have gone through my mind and first of all, this has been a really good exercise, a discussion about, kind of priorities. It's kind of a catalyst for that. I'm putting a lot of trust in my colleagues on the Sacramento City Council. And I have every reason to believe that, there's going to be a lot of great assistance down the road when we get into this SVS loop and things like that. So I have a lot of trust in that, just as I have a lot of respect for the people who are really working hard, from Congresswoman Matsui's office and colleagues on Sacramento City Council. I know the County Board of Supervisors is looking at some options as well. So it is, as Don captured, it's it's a balancing act, and I'm just going to put my sense of trust, and this expenditure is going to buy us more in the future for a variety of reasons. It's an investment. And I think with a lot of this assistance, and we're going to have to really make this work down the road as far as parlaying this as momentum in transit in the region. So for that reason, I will be supportive of the motion. And if there are no other comments, Melissa?
Can I just ask for some clarification on the parameters of the amendment? And I also wanted to check with our finance folks and making sure we're not putting ourselves in sort of a chicken and egg situation if we make our commitment contingent on the initial commitment by the feds, if that's going to put us in a problematic situation with the feds. If we're saying we won't promise unless you promise, are they going to be willing to let us get the $50 million? And then also on the TIRCP funds.
So my understanding is that what Mr. Hume wanted was if the federal or state money doesn't materialize, the $50 and $30 million, that RT wouldn't come through. I don't think the project starts at that level until those funds are there. So I would ask Mr. Nance or Mr. Trost to see if they can help on the specific language. But I think the concept is no federal or state large dollars, no RT money.
Yes, sir. On the federal government already committed the first $50 million. Right. The $30 million cap and trade is there. I think it's contingent on when construction starts.
So I think we're good on
that. Yeah, and I'm fully aware it's largely a semantical condition, that it's not like we're cutting a check tomorrow to deposit into escrow.
Sorry. That's right. I think if the condition is that the money will only come when we have a small starts grant agreement with the federal government, that will protect your interests, and that we're fine with that.
Okay. Is that good?
So making clear that the expenditure won't occur until the small starts
Correct.
grant agreement has occurred,
Correct.
but the programming can occur at this point
Correct.
in time. Okay.
Thank you.
So the maker of the motion, the seconder of the motion are good with clarification there?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. You just wanted to speak tonight, didn't you?
I had no interest in speaking.
Okay, so with that, I'm just going to do a voice vote here. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Thank you.
Sorry. Motion carries at 95 votes. So I'm going to ask everybody that's leaving now to be very quiet as you depart because we still have business to conduct. Thank you.
Quite a bit. Closed session.
So the next item is item 23, continuation of the public hearing for the fiscal year 2018 operating and capital budgets. And the actions tonight are to accept any other further public comment, to approve the Sacramento Regional Transit District fiscal year 2018 operating, debt service, capital budgets, and vote allocation, and to authorize the filing of the fiscal year 18 Transportation Development Act claim based on the adopted budget, and amending Exhibit A of Resolution 1704-0047 and approving new job descriptions and SAC-RT's authorized classification positions and salary grades, and David Goldman is here to present.
Okay, David, you lost some of your audience, but carry on.
All right, the main event. Good evening, Chair, board members, David Goldman, Management and Budget Director. I'd like to call out two revisions to the item that was posted last week that are contained in the hard copies provided to you and the public in the back of the room. The organizational chart on page 5 was updated under Transit Services / Chief Operating Officer Division to reflect bus transportation and operations training areas. And the operating and capital budget resolution was updated to be consistent with the total dollar amount contained in the rest of the issue paper and the attached to bridge budget. We continue to trend below budget for the current fiscal year, which is a big turnaround from previous fiscal years due to our relentless pursuit of efficiency improvements and business optimizations. This positive trend has allowed us to develop a budget that is over $1 million below the prior year budget. In contrast, if costs had increased by 5% as they had done in the past, that would have equated to an $8 million increase, and the difference between that and going down by $1 million is $9 million. This is at a time when many agencies produce ever-increasing budgets. We're able to reduce our budget while enhancing our customer service experience with no fare increase. So this is the updated budget schedule from the last hearing. We listened to the public at the May 8th budget hearing, and we held 3 extra public meetings at different times and locations to go over the budget, and we also provided line item details of the budget as requested. The public input with our responses are included as an attachment to the issue paper. To summarize the main themes of the questions, they included how best to use Prop 1A funds, questions related to the streetcar, costs related to the Watt I-80 elevator replacement and shuttle service, funding the operating reserves, and providing year-to-year line item comparisons, questions on the Connect card, and various other questions on line items. So this slide goes over the changes from the preliminary budget from April 10th and also the overall changes from the fiscal year 17 budget. The total increase from April 10th is $400,000. And even with this increase, as I mentioned before, we are over $1 million below the current year, fiscal year 17 budget. So now fare revenue, we're looking at decreasing that by a little over $1 million from the April 10th budget, or a decrease of about $600,000 from the fiscal year 17 budget. And that is due to the 90-minute transfers for Connect card users that was approved at a previous board meeting, the free ride days, and the veterans discounts, and some other adjustments as well. The fare revenue decrease is about $1.5 million less than the April 10th budget, or overall $3.2 million. That's to account for the phasing out of limited term revenues for the Blue Line and the Golden One Center opening. State and local revenue, that increased by about $3 million to account for the SB1 transportation bill revenues to balance those previous decreases. This gives you a quick overview of the different components of our revenues. You can see that in the top right-hand corner is Measure A. Fares is on the bottom right-hand corner. Our federal revenues is in the green on the bottom left. And the state sales tax is on the upper left-hand corner. And the other sources of revenues are dispersed throughout the pie. Now this also goes over the changes from the preliminary budget, but these are the expenses, not the revenues. As I mentioned before, the total change is an increase of $400,000 from the preliminary April 10th budget. This is a decrease of over $1.2 million from last year's budget. Salary and benefits increased slightly. The total funded positions are going up by 34. However, this includes 36 positions related to bringing the security that was being run by the G4S in-house. So taking that into account, that means the overall funded position count is actually decreasing by 2 as we continue to enhance the efficiency of the organization. Professional services increase was due to continued negotiations with our vendors and Trend. And other expenses decreased by about $200,000, mostly due to reductions in our insurance premiums. This is another overview of our expenses. You can see that the majority of our expenses go to salary and benefits. It's about at 68% on the left-hand side of the screen. Just go through, okay. and the remaining 30% are all the other expenses. This is exciting stuff. So these are funds related to the capital projects. What we this go around, we added the carryover amounts. We weren't able to do that back in April 10th because it was too soon in the year. We only had February numbers. Now that the year is further progressed, we have better numbers to know how much of the previously approved projects are being carried forward. Real quick, you can see on the top, there's the downtown riverfront streetcar. It doesn't add up to 200 million because the balance is in the carryover amount in the bottom. There's some other items in there as well. You can see specifically the Watt I-80 station elevator. If I had a pointer, I'd be pointing right at the middle on the left. That was added in at $900,000. That's coming out of the SB1 projected revenues. And also we have a $3.8 million seed money to help fund the replacement of our light rail fleet of the vehicles that are reaching the end of their useful life. So total is $295 million for the capital budget. And that concludes the presentation, and staff is available to field any questions you may have.
Okay, questions for David? I do have some requests to speak on this. Director Budge?
I have one. We are now 3 years into being promised that you all have money for, or that there's money in the budget to wrap the electrical houses along Folsom Boulevard.
I wasn't aware.
We were promised that 3 years ago. I know that our staff meets with somebody at Regional Transit on a quarterly basis, and that's really terrific. And I actually think it's Ed that's usually in those meetings. But seriously, we're on you would not have had to paint that building at Folsom and Coloma if the project had been carried out 3 years ago.
Well, according to our vice president, we're working on the specs for that right now, so we're in the process of doing that.
And we might see a bid or construction or what, when?
That's a good question, but within the next, I want to say 3 to 6 months, we'll have that in front of the board to advertise, because we talked to your staff, I want to say 2 weeks ago, about this same issue.
Okay, that's really cool. And the funny thing about that, when the first building was done 15 years ago, when Dr. Scott was general manager, it was a Christmas present. And she put a big, it's the really big electrical substation at Folsom and Matherfield Road, and she put a great big red bow around it. All right, we'd like one for a Christmas present. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
We'd like all the rest for Christmas presents.
We'd like them all for Christmas present, but at least one. Thank you, Neil.
Okay, any other questions for David? All right, so I do have a couple requests to speak on this item. Jeffrey Tartagia, then Mike Barnbaum, then Sarah Kerber.
Again, board members, what I would ask is, I hope that you ask for in the future, and I believe you will find, and I think Henry will agree, that the evening board meeting for understanding the budget was most attended, and for regards to dealing with the budget, is what are material in concept of importance. And again, having the capital budget, it would have been nice that it be there available to explain right along with the operational budget for people to understand and see. But I suspect part of the reason was because the big number one item on the capital budget was the streetcar. So it may not have been disclosed, but again, unintentional consequences of once a month meetings. Reason why I brought up several meetings ago about the Sacramento College funding in there and the issue of 1 year being larger is because over the next 18 months, they're minus parking. So it should be this year that there should be a larger expenditure. Also brought up a dealing with because you changed from the GS4 contracts. Now, my understanding for general accepted accounting procedures, when you change contracts and now you are going in-house, that please, I hope it's noted on the budget that you have changed your security policies and that just simply that line item that says security services, yes, it has changed. I'm glad that we had in this one the notation of the multiple year contracts. In years previously, I didn't note that it was clearly sub-delineated, available to see on the budget because you did mostly pie charts. So I appreciate the heading that's going on in giving a better detail and what is materially changing each year, as well as I like to emphasize is the previous year, not just dollar amounts, but what has changed previously year to the current year and what you're proposing. So sometimes that better detail is highly essential so you understand the relevance of the budget. The more you expose, the better public comments you will get and the better understanding. And I appreciate you guys for opening that up a little bit. As the Board of Supervisors learning, opening things up has a lot more time and much more complicated, but you get public comment that offers you better insight in what's going on.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Mike, then Sarah and Russell Rawlings.
Thank you. On the budget, we're going to cautiously, conditionally support the budget before you. We, no pun intended, want to really drive the point home about simple service improvements with the more complex route optimization study coming forth soon with public engagement. But we included this attachment at the evening budget workshop that's in your packet to drive home the point of service improvements are absolutely necessary in this budget, and we didn't put a thing of 4 days worth of capital projects as you saw in item 22, just a one-page, very simple thing to read for service improvements that we talked to the GM at the evening budget session that night and needed this addressed. Number two, we know that we need a very major local source of funding, as Henry alluded to earlier in the meeting, and we would hope that going forward that getting SCA 6 by Senator Scott Wiener is going to be the top legislative priority in fiscal year 18 now that SB 1 is passed and is behind us. And number three, we would put a conditional, cautious motion on the table to adopt the budget tonight and bring back on September 25th a final budget that would address what the state has done and what you project in the federal budget to be included in a more final budget for regional transit. But before we leave the podium, do you have any comments, Mr. Chairman, particularly from a local Folsom perspective on any improvements of service, particularly with rail or local service via RT in the Folsom stage line?
Yeah, just
thank you.
Our city and Folsom Economic Development team are working on extended hours. So yep, working hard on that.
Wonderful. Thank you. And we hope you can adopt our motion we made under public comment and coming back on September 25th. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Sarah, and then Russell.
Hi, Sarah Kerber with the Sacramento Transit Riders Union. Last time tonight, woohoo! Thank you, it's better now. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the RT staff for providing the public budget presentations on the fiscal year 2018 budget. Education, engagement, and outreach in our community is one of my passions, and I've been asking for a couple of years for this to be done with Regional Transit's budget, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time to do this. David, especially, you haven't been with RT very long, have you? And we asked him a lot of detailed, difficult questions, and he did his best to answer it. There was a whole group of staff there to take notes on our comments, to follow up and get more information for us. So I just want to thank all of the RT staff for doing a great job on that. And Henry, thank you for asking the staff to do an evening meeting so that more people could attend. I personally attended 2 of the 3 meetings offered and learned a lot, and saw community members who've never attended or participated in an RT meeting before become engaged and learn more about our transit system, including some of those unfunded maintenance projects that we talked about and the operating revenues that RT is working to rebuild. Budgets are a document that express the goals of an organization, and we understand that it is RT's mission to provide a public transit system that works for the entire region and creates opportunities for access, health, and employment, especially in communities where transportation options are extremely limited or non-existent. We hope that staff continues to engage and educate riders on how their transit system is funded, and we appreciate the line item document provided by staff at the presentations, and would like to request this year-over-year information continues to be provided for each of the budget items. This way, riders, community members, and the board can see how RT's expenses and policy priorities change over time. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Sarah. And Russell and David, could you kind of make some room for Russell there? Come on up, Russell.
Good evening, board. I was going to start this off a little differently. Sarah stole most of my comments on the budget, but I must say I'm extremely disappointed and know that we have a lot more work to do. And because the budget now reflects values that don't represent people, so we've got a lot more work to do, staff. Congratulations, Steve, on comments that belittle and demean people, telling them that they must choose the modes that you like or that you prefer, that you won't actually be even using. I would recommend staff, if we were going to do something radical and wanted to really invest in transit, we would set up a paid fare zone for cars in downtown, that every car that entered downtown would pay a tax. That would be progressive. That would be bold. Instead, what you're doing is you're giving privileged individuals a play toy that they will hardly use. So, congratulations. I will be spending an immense amount of time ensuring that there are better decision makers in the future. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes speaker requests on this item. Do we need to move these items separately, or can we move them together?
You can take them all together.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, one comment there. Director Hansen?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Russell's comment because it does affect me. I think I hold Russell in very high regard, and I regret that that's how he felt, but we do battle day in, day out in favor of transit. And it does disturb me when I see people come here who want to support transit but force us to make choices that aren't long-term or holistic. But one of the things I think as we move forward in our budget process that we need to continue to do is make sure that transit is useful, that it's reliable, that it's fast, it's frequent, and it's easy. And those are the things that ultimately should guide our agency. You know, headways that are really long, they don't help communities because those community members can't rely on that service. If it's not accessible, if it's not walkable, if you have things like you saw Sarah present to us during public comment, those don't help our riders. Those don't encourage the public to ride our system. Doesn't make it easy. And I think we have a lot of work to do, but a positive sum mentality about how we're going to move the region forward does take a partnership. And I think this board has made really important decisions in trying to stabilize our budget and provide some reliability. And we have to do more, but I think that more is always going to be through this process. And I feel very sorry for what Russell said, but I also know that the leadership of this board continues to try to move the agency forward. So that's that.
All right, thanks. So entertain a motion if there's no other questions. So moved by Director Jennings, seconded by Director Hansen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right.
Motion carries at 95 votes. Next item, item 24, Paratransit Inc. Board of Directors Meeting Report in your package.
Okay, no additional comments here.
Okay, item number 25, San Joaquin.
Chair.
Oh, yes, hold on.
Yeah, if I could just suggest that I know that Director Hansen Humer on the Paratransit Board, I had the good fortune of serving on that for a couple of years. I guess I wanted to ask, I think in light of this, this newly reformulated partnership, certainly has revolved around some financial aspects, but also regarding cooperation and so forth. I think it would be a good idea to, on some regular basis, to have either Tiffany or her staff. I know that Henry, RT staff, attends Paratransit Board, at least they did when I was serving on it. And I think it would be a good opportunity to give Tiffany and somebody, some minutes on the agenda, maybe quarterly or whatever frequency people would be comfortable with. Talk to us about what's going on with Paratransit, how they work as a partner in this community in transportation planning and delivery of services. And I think we should show the same courtesy. I mean, they're always willing to speak. That is extended to RT members on a regular basis at all the paratransit meetings. So I would suggest that we get that on the agenda and work with Directors Hume and Hansen, however you want to formulate that. But I think that's important.
Yeah, we will do so, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item.
Item number 25, San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting of May 26th, and Director Natoli has anything to add?
Nope, it's all on there.
All right, I got a request to speak on this. Mike Barnum.
Mike was there.
Thank you. I read the online report, and just a correction in the beginning of the report. Senate Bill 477 was authored by Senator Cannella, dealing with intercity rail corridors. It wasn't the bill about the voter threshold. As mentioned earlier in tonight's board meeting, that bill is SCA 6 by Senator Scott Wiener. And the biggest takeaway from the meeting, I was fortunate enough to make the trek all the way down to Fresno and back. Morning express service. It's going to be a very critical implementation project for the SJJPA in their business plan. It's the #1 service priority to get service to Sacramento. As you know, throughout the San Joaquin Valley, residents don't have what residents in Long Beach, Los Angeles, Ontario, and Burbank have, where they can get to Sacramento very quickly on Southwest. What Morning Express will do, and it's a great project, is going to get a train to Sacramento before 8 o'clock in the morning. It'll get a train back to the San Joaquin Valley about 5:30 in the afternoon, give or take, departing from Sacramento. And staff is going to really hone in on this at the July 28th meeting, which, by the way, will be in Sacramento. That is the last Friday in the month of July. We had recommended, and I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you can relate to this, we had recommended that the board hold the meeting in the Bay Area in July, simply all due to the weather. We thought it gets very hot throughout the San Joaquin Valley between Bakersfield and Redding in the month of July, and if it was nothing but weather, we recommended the Bay Area. Staff recommended Sacramento, and we agreed only for the fact because it's more issue-driven why the meeting needs to be in Sacramento at the end of July, because of the Morning Express service being a really critical topic, and their capital projects and stuff going forward for their major schedule change, either October 2nd or sometime in January. Staff will be providing updates to that, the temporary layover facility, and the transit intercity rail capital improvement program will be the next biggest item on the agenda. So we invite everybody to come to the meeting in Sacramento. We're working with their staff to finalize a 2-hour window of time. It'll either be noon to 2 or 2 to 4 in a building to be determined. But we'll let you know at your July meeting all the final details.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, that leads us to...
Any other comments from directors before we move on? Okay. Next is the announcement of closed session items. Item 1, A, public employee performance evaluation for the general manager CEO, and B, conference with labor negotiations for the general manager CEO.
Great. So we will go ahead and adjourn to closed session since the hour's kind of late. Anybody who can make that closed session to get there as quickly as possible so we can get her done.
And I understand there will be no closed session report after closed session.